Welcome back to another live watch along with my good friend Danny Solana. Danny, welcome in. I'm excited to do another one of these with you. It's been let's see, you hopped in a little bit for which match was it?
The Inter Miami Tigres match last
It,
Saturday.
exactly. Yes, you came by, but it's been a while since you and I hosted one together. So I'm looking forward to that. How's it been going?
It's been going good, man. It's been a good week, a nice week of football around the U.S. A lot more. I don't know if we can call them cup sets with the MLS beating Liga MX, but hey, we got a full plate of games on the table tonight. Starting with the one that we're going to be covering, Orlando City and Cruz Azul. But we've got, like I said, a number of games on the schedule tonight, and it's going to be a really, really interesting night of football to see what's left in the round of 16.
Yeah, so just to update everyone on last night's matches, Inter Miami beat Toronto, which we'll go into that a little bit here in a minute because obviously that's your team, Inter Miami. They beat Toronto 4-3 in what was a very exciting game, high scoring game. Interesting to see that they were able to get that win. I mean, they started off kind of hot early. I think it was like 3-1 or 3-0, and then they obviously conceded a couple goals. So Inter Miami is able to get the win there. Tigres beats Pachuca 1-0. The Seattle Sounders beat LA Galaxy 3-1. That was an upset. And what about San Jose with Necaxa beating him 5-0, man? What a surprise. Wasn't that crazy?
It was, but not as much as a surprise as the Seattle Sounders Los Angeles Galaxy game. I think on our bingo cards or our our Leagues Cup cards, I think that's the only loss the both of you have had, the both of us have had. Maybe other than the Necaxa one. I didn't have that one either. I thought Necaxa would beat San Jose, but San Jose, along with Austin now eliminated, but San Jose and Austin were the two surprises of the tournament so far.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the kind of thing with this tournament. You kind of are going to have some unexpected results, and there's especially when we get down to this single elimination, anything can happen, right? You could have a bad night, and the bad team have a good night. I mean, I don't think anybody thought San Jose was going to beat Necaxa 5-0. I mean, that's a great result for anybody. So that was cool. It'll be interesting to see what happens. And when this tournament progresses further, what team is going to show up each night? Now, Pumas beating Vancouver, people thought that was Pumas is like number 2 right now in the Liga MX standings. But I remember I had Pumas beating Vancouver, and people were surprised by that. So I wasn't too surprised. I mean, Pumas is playing well in Liga MX, and Vancouver's been inconsistent in MLS. They're not bad, just inconsistent. So I wasn't surprised by that match, and I think you're going to see the good teams start to separate themselves from this point forward. Even though I just said a good team can lose on any given night, but I think that the bad teams are going to start to wear down. The depth concerns are going to show, and the good teams are going to prevail.
Absolutely. I mean, I think as most of these tournaments go, as it starts to wind down, usually, like you said, you'll get a couple surprises, but overall, the expectation is the teams that are, much more favored to go on, the Columbus Crews, the Inter Miamis, the Tigres, possibly FC Cincinnati. That's just on the east side. On the west, you've got LAFC. I thought the Galaxy would have been a favorite, with how they've been playing lately in the MLS, Cup. But, unfortunately, they were taken out yesterday by Seattle, one of the surprises, and that's how it's going to be. Of course, we haven't seen America, who's probably the heavy favorite to win the tournament, play, but they'll play tonight against Atlas. So I'm intrigued to see what America shows and what Columbus shows, because these other teams, most of them have three games under their belt. These guys haven't played yet, so it's gonna be interesting to see if, one, the rest has affected them, and two, the fact that both of the clubs are playing a team from their home, tournament, is that going to affect them as well?
Yeah, and I just real quickly, I pulled up the bracket just so everybody could look at it. So these are the games played already. So Seattle will play Pumas in the next round. LAFC will play San Jose. Tigres will play the winner of New York City FC and New England, and Miami will play the winner of Columbus and Sporting Kansas City. That could be tricky, Danny. I think honestly, Columbus, Miami's hoping for an upset for Sporting Kansas City, right? because I'm sure they don't want to play Columbus. Columbus is a very tough team to beat, and they've proven that they can beat these elite Liga MX teams. So I don't think they're afraid of Inter Miami. And they're, that's a team that I wouldn't want to see in the tournament. But yeah, I mean, this is progressing really nice. Earlier in the tournament, there were a lot of Liga MX teams that were struggling to find results. And it was obviously the question of, are they trying? Is it because the MLS is that much better? Which I don't think it's that much better. I think it's just a culmination of on the road. Maybe I feel a little rushed because they've only played 4 games in their season, having to halt the season 4 games in, go to America for a month, play in this tournament, be on the road the whole time. But I think it's starting to balance itself out. I think we're going to see it much more evenly matched, even though MLS has more teams in the round of 32. We're going to see more Liga MX teams prevail in advance in these later knockout rounds.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with the names that you see up there on the board. Of course, you're gonna have that America Atlas match, which is gonna eliminate one Liga MX team. But then you've got that Toluca matchup there where they play Houston. Toluca has a few really good players. One of the surprises of the Copa America and Maxi Araujo, and there's been a lot of talk of him being transferred out this transfer window to Europe. They also have another Uruguayan defender called Bruno Mendes, who played for a few years on Corinthians, and he was also part of the under-20 Uruguay team that made it to the finals. I think it was 8 or 12 years ago in one of the U20 World Cups. So they've got a lot of talent on the Mexico side. And like you said, as we start to wind down, while there are more MLS teams still left in the tournament, you're going to see some of those powerhouses, Mexican teams probably take some of these, games in the round of 32 and round of 16,
100%.
especially with the game tonight, the Cruz Azul Orlando City match. Look, Orlando City, the one we're covering, Orlando City has been fantastic this tournament. And they seem to have, finally find their stride after they had a really good, winter transfer window. They brought Luis Muriel, and he had a tough time getting into the thick of things, but tough matchup against Cruz Azul, who, like you mentioned to me earlier this week, is top of the league right now in Mexico, and they have fantastic players too. So it's probably one of the better matchups we're going to see in the match day today.
Yeah, and also too, I didn't mention this to you. I should have before the show started. I actually reached out to a Cruz Azul fan, runs a fan page, and I invited him on the show because I wanted to have someone with a little more expertise with Liga MX side, just to see what he says about the club, see if they're real or fake, the hype being number 1 in the standings right now. So I've invited him. Be on the lookout, everyone, for him. When he joins, we'll bring him in. We'll get his perspective on Cruz Azul, see what he thinks about the team, if they're contenders or pretenders. So I just thought that'd be interesting, just to get that Liga MX side, little Liga MX spin into our MLS thought process. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what Orlando City can do. Orlando City has been very hot and cold with Oscar Pereira as manager. Last year he started off very slow, then he finished strong. I think he could have possibly been fired last year if he didn't have such a strong finish. Orlando City has, just in league play, counting their League's Cup performances, they are unbeaten in their last. Okay, so they haven't lost a match since June 28th. They're unbeaten in their last 5 MLS matches. They have, let's see. So they have 4 wins and 1 draw in their last 5 matches. So they are a pretty hot team right now. Orlando City is. So this should be an interesting matchup. I think both teams are going to give it their all. They're going to try to win this match. And we'll see who prevails. Now the match is actually played technically, right? Isn't it technically an away match for Orlando tonight?
Yes,
Yeah,
I think it is.
It is. Okay, so Cruz Azul, let's see where the match is being played.
So yeah, the match is being played at Enter & Co, which is Orlando City's home field. So while they're a visiting team in this game, I mean, they have the luxury of essentially playing at home.
At home isn't that crazy to be the away team playing at your home stadium?
Absolutely.
But see, that's the thing. That's the whole reason why this league or this tournament gets a bad rap, because of stuff like that. Being an away team but playing at your home stadium is crazy to think about.
Absolutely. I mean, no doubt. And look, even it happened to Austin. Austin, was top of their group against they probably had probably one of the toughest groups because they had Pumas and Monterrey. They end up beating both of the teams, and they have to go on the road for the round of 32 game just because of how crazy the seeding and all that works. So I think while Leagues Cup, in my opinion, has been a success, even though we've seen maybe a drop in ticket sales or a drop in attendance, which we can get into that as we continue with the live stream. But I think it's been a success on the fact that we're getting to see fresh matchups. You're getting to see some players stand out that probably normally wouldn't get to stand out in a normal MLS game because there's different tactics being played in these international matchups, not the normal usually in like they do in MLS where you sit in a low block and try to counterattack. Most of the teams do that. So we're getting to see some really fresh matchups, and I think overall, other than some of the seeding and some of the grouping aspects that I think can be improved over the years, I think Leagues Cup has been a big success.
Yeah, I think I'd mentioned this before in an earlier stream. I think people were remembering the high last year of Messi and Inter Miami lifting the Leagues Cup trophy and not remembering how boring the group stage was outside of Inter Miami. That was the most exciting part about it last year, was seeing Messi into an Inter Miami kit. This right here is where it gets interesting because everything is on the line. You lose, you're out. You win, you go. So that's what makes it exciting. Now we're going to see teams start to flourish and really see what they're made of. And plus, at the end of the day, I understand there are concerns about this tournament. I've said that, just the scheduling, the home venues, playing all on American soil. But at the end of the day, this competition grants 3 CONCACAF Champions Cup spots. So there is something on the line for it. It's not like you just get a prize and that's all you get. This is a tournament that's going to grant 3 spots on the CONCACAF Champions Cup. So there is things to play for in this tournament.
Oh, and the purse also, right? Will, the purse is $40 million, which is nothing compared to what any of the other, tournaments or competitions that MLS currently plays in, which, would be the MLS season and obviously the US Open Cup, which that's been, the backlash of a lot of fans and being upset with the MLS kind of, again, kind of pushing off or shrugging off the US Open Cup as an inferior tournament. But I mean, I'm not going to lie to you, Will. I think before Leagues Cup started, I was more on the side of the U.S. Open Cup, and I think of the historic part of it and how great it is. But it just doesn't have the same feel as the other domestic cups around the world do. And I think because of that, and until they can improve that and get some more sponsors and get the name of the tournament and the games out there, because Will, I don't know about, I mean, I know you are a lot more involved in the domestic soccer than I am, and I'm pretty involved, but I couldn't tell you who's left in the US Open Cup. And I don't know if you could. And that's just because there's just no marketing of it.
There's no promotion of it at all.
Nothing.
Exactly.
So how and I know a lot of folks have you know and probably correctly so, gone out and hit Don Garber and said, he's the dictator and all that. But look, at the end of the day, you have to understand Don Garber is a commissioner and he's looking out for all the owners. And so he's got a job to do, and that's what he's doing. He's trying to maximize the owners' pockets and get as much money for the league at the end of the day. And that's his job. And as it stands today, the Leagues Cup is much more beneficial to MLS than the US Open.
100%, 100%. We have our Cruz Azul fan Oscar in here. We're going to bring him in and get a couple questions. Oscar, how's it going, man?
Hey guys. Thanks for the invite here.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming. Yeah, yes. So the first thing I want to ask you, we'll get into Cruz Azul in a minute. Do you support any MLS club, or are you just exclusively Cruz Azul?
I mean, it's my boyhood club, but
yeah.
I am from Boston, Massachusetts. I think you can see my Revs.
Okay, yeah, I do. I do see your Revs. So yeah.
I do have I do support the Revs, if in the MLS, if I do have a team.
If they're not playing Cruz Azul, right?
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, Oscar. What is your take on Leagues Cup as a whole? Like, do you validate it? Is it legitimate to you, or do you think it's a joke?
I mean, I think, in my personal opinion, I think it's just more like a economic crash grab for both Liga MX and MLS, and I understand it from like a business perspective. And the reality is too, I think, I always have this conversation, with like other Liga MX members of the English community, where like at the end of the day, this is the best what we can do in CONCACAF. At the end of the day, I think ideally, I don't know how much you guys know about Copa Libertadores. I think everyone would want to be in that, and that would be beneficial to all of us now, even South America too, quite honestly, especially because the way the growth of MLS now is and the amount of money you guys put into those teams now, you can't tell me that they wouldn't get out of the group stage in Libertadores, especially given the fact that it's only been Brazilian, Argentine finals for like God knows how long now, maybe like the last 10 years. Maybe the last one was like, I think Colombia was the last one that won it, that was from like another country. But I think that's what we all want. But the reality is this is the best what MLS and Liga MX can do. And economically, this is the best we can do now too. I think I heard a little bit, you guys were talking about the US Cup Open. So from a business perspective, I think it just makes sense. And it's the best sports wise that we can do at this current moment. But like, if you're telling me if this is like my bread and butter, probably not. But it is what it is. And it's what we have at the end of the day.
Yeah. Go ahead, Danny. I'll let you go.
I was just gonna say you're right. In the last 20 years, there's only been 3 times where a team that's not from Brazil or Argentina has won Copa Libertadores, and that's Once Caldas beat Boca Juniors in 2004, Liga de Quito beat Fluminense in 2008, and then the only final that didn't have a Brazilian or Argentine team in all that time was in 2016, where Atlético Nacional from Colombia beat Independiente del Valle.
Okay.
I thought
Tigres
made
to the final. I thought Tigres made it to the final like 2015.
We did.
No,
oh yeah, you're right. Yeah,
they did. You're right. I apologize.
River
River Plate beat them 3-0. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of, and I was wrong. There's some other finals there, like Nacional from Paraguay made it to a final Olympia. But I
think we make our point where it's like,
but they don't win though.
It's diluted in a sense. But I'm not saying if MLS and Liga MX clubs we get back into, we're gonna be finalists. But I really do think with the right circumstances and schedule, like a LAFC, I can see them going to a semifinal. I can see this Club America right now, who are back-to-back champions, going to a semifinal. I can see my team, maybe a little biased, go to a semifinal, maybe a final, with the way we're playing. And we have these South American coaches too now. So it's interesting. It's a whole nother can of worms that maybe one day we can do another episode about this. But what can you do?
Well, so I was going to ask you that. We'll talk a little bit more about Leagues Cup, but I want to get your opinion on your club, Cruz Azul, in this match, because currently they're number 1 in the standings in Liga MX. So my question, but there's 3-4 teams, like they've only played 4 matches. There's a lot of teams that are like right there.
We just started, so it's kind of hard to. Yeah.
Exactly. But they're they're off to a good start though. Like they're definitely doing well. I mean, I know obviously it's hard for a fan to say, be too critical of their team, but would you say that they are legit contenders, or are they pretenders right now, Cruz Azul?
It's hard to say, because at this point we're entering like the knockout stage, and the reality is like no matter if you're the number 1 seed, you can easily get knocked out in this competition, in this format. I mean, right now, if you kind of look the way we're coming into it, I think for like casuals who are gonna just watch this game, Orlando's is like on this crazy form, even though they're like 7th in the league or in their conference rate for MLS or something like that, and we're first. But if you look at our matches, we dominated everything. We just can't score at the moment. But it's hard to. I think it's 50-50. Like I wouldn't be surprised if we crashed out, because we'll dominate a game, but we just won't score. And at the end of the day, you have to score. You have to score goals. But I can't really knock this team, man. Like it's been a long time where like I enjoyed the football. We've had more conservative coaches in the past, even the team that won the most recent one, our 9th league title. But Martin Anselmi, something that I've coined, we've been playing champagne football. It's you're gonna see it. We play really, really attractive football. So it'd be interesting how we can, if everything clicks today, we can easily get a convincing win. But this is soccer. It's one of those sports where like you can dominate a game, but you won't win. You won't win. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you also have a MLS goal scoring machine
Oh yeah,
up
our
top
Greek
now in
freak. Yeah,
Marcus. Yeah, so
I
I mean
was
that's a good start.
yeah,
I was
definitely.
actually gonna go into that. I was gonna ask you how the fan base feels because that's been one of the more controversial, off or summer transfer kind of signings of somebody who was a disgruntled player from the MLS choosing to leave and go to Cruz Azul. So how did the fans welcome him and how has he been for you guys at the start of the season?
I think it's been great. Think about it. Just like for Mexico in general, I think MLS does a way better job in terms of gathering talent from all across the globe versus Liga MX. We get mostly South American players. Maybe we'll get some African players, Caribbean players, but to get a European, a Greek at that, a name that's very hard to pronounce, it's been really good. Especially the way, like you guys said, he came in already kind of like saying Liga MX and Cruz Azul was a way above level than what MLS was doing. You know what I mean? And there's some truth in there. I think uh, what he was saying, but I think the fans have received them well. I mean, I've received them well. He looks like a quality striker, and what I've seen, you can see everything that he offers. Obviously, people think he should be scoring like goals left and right already, but I think you got to. The only thing is people don't really talk about is there is a language barrier in a sense. So, because he doesn't speak any Spanish, so I can imagine
Yeah.
that in that format, it's not the make or break. I mean, there's guys who go to the Prem, who don't speak English and they make it find a way to work. But I think George's once he's able to connect a little bit more with his teammates and they know his movements and everything.
Ooh,
I do think we got something that we got a good striker in our hands.
Orlando City almost scores there. Yeah, Yakimakis, he actually, let me just double check real quick. I know he scored, I think he scored 20 goals last year in his first year with in Atlanta. Okay, so he scored 17 goals last year with Atlanta. He scored 5 this year in 11 matches before he was transferred out. And then he had a great season in the Eredivisie. He scored 26 goals in 30 matches, which got him a move to Celtic in the Scottish Premiership, where he scored almost 20 goals in 40 matches. So the guy scores every league he goes. I think at this point, Oscar, when you're talking about MLS and Liga MX, they're so close in quality these days. I still think Liga MX is a better league from top to bottom at this point, but they're closer than they've ever been. It's pretty
Oh
close.
yeah, I mean I agree completely. I mean, Brandon Vasquez came from Cincinnati to Monterrey and he ripped it up as soon as he came. So like you
Yeah,
said, I mean, you're seeing both players from either Liga MX go to MLS and MLS to Liga MX, and they're pretty much functioning pretty much the same
at the
way
same
that they would
quality.
in
Yeah,
their leagues. Exactly. Yep.
exactly. And Cade Cowell, even at Chivas, has had some very good games
Yeah,
after leaving San Jose. He's looked really good at Chivas.
he has to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah. That's good though. That's a good sign that the leagues are getting closer and closer. And you mentioned earlier about this tournament being a cash grab or along those lines about the money that's going to make. And Danny and I agree 100%. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get as much money as they possibly can. But is this besides the money? I just don't think this is making the leagues better. Champions League is where it's at. That the Champions League was exciting this past year. I know a lot of MLS teams got bounced early, but the run that Columbus had, if they didn't have the stomach illness, the bad food is what they say. But I'm not going to blame that. But that was a good run nonetheless. Even if they got beat down by Pachuca, beating Tigres and Monterrey on the road is something MLS teams doesn't do, and I think that that's a good sign of where MLS is going. But I still think they have a long way to go.
No, yeah, I agree. Like you said, I think the CONCACAF Champions League has like grown exponentially, and I think you brought it up there. I think whether they're trying to eliminate clubs that maybe aren't an MLS or League MX clubs because how many times I don't know. Like I think we played Portsmouth at one point, the Jamaican team, and some of these Central American teams, even though there's like that passion and like the hostility on the away games, the reality is the quality between MLS, Liga MX from those Caribbean and Central American teams. I think the gap is just a little bit too wide, and that's just our Concacaf too. Like, people like to hype up UEFA Champions League, but how many teams do you see like that always are in the bottom of each group stage and like what's the point of them here? You know what I mean? But
I can
we
name
can't say that
a
because it's
bunch of them.
Europe. Yeah,
I can name.
I mean,
How about FC Malmo? How many games have they won when they were in Champions League? Can't
exactly.
remember. I mean, Faring Banks, another one. I mean, there's a bunch of teams.
There's so many teams.
And I hear you. And maybe the idea would be to create some sort of like Libertadores style, where how in Libertadores you have a lot more Brazilian and a lot more Argentinian teams that qualify, and there's only 2 or 3 teams from the other countries. So maybe you do something like that where you allow 8, 9 teams from each of these two leagues to qualify, and then you hunker down on the rest of the teams, because you're right. Some of these teams. I mean, I remember there was one team. I believe they were from Haiti. They didn't even have like their uniforms or something like that, and they ended up beating Austin FC. It's crazy that would happen. But I mean, how often does that happen?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Really, in CONCACAF, you really only have a few nations that have strong club teams, and then you only have 1 or 2 offs in some other countries. Like in Honduras, you might have a Real Honduras or something like that. In Costa Rica, you have a few teams. You have Alajuelense in Costa Rica, Saprissa. So you have a few teams that could compete. But overall, you're right, man. I mean, the level is just not there, and that's why I almost compare the CONCACAF Champions League to the U.S. Open Cup, because the level is not there either. And how are you supposed to showcase the talent and sell your players when you're not getting the viewership in the games, not only from domestic but around the world? Like how's Inter Miami going to sell Federico Redondo next year, right? Or take it even New England. You guys are in rebuild mode, but you guys are bringing in players. How are you going to sell players when you're playing the Birmingham Legion and it's being covered on CBS and nobody knows that you're playing? I mean, and that's why again, I kind of lean more towards Leagues Cup, because, hey, yes, the games are available on Apple TV. You need Apple TV, but you can always find a stream somewhere. And again, you're just getting more competitive matchups day in and day out, and just more exciting matchups as well. You're not getting 6-0s and 7-0s, except for that Necaxa game last night.
Exactly. No, I think, you summed it up pretty well there. And like I said, I think the MLS executives and Liga MX executives are trying to eliminate, I guess, those lower tier guys, because if we look at the CONCACAF Champions League, that's when it gets exciting, right? When like the last 8 there, and it's like MLS Club, Liga MX Club that are meant to be there and they're playing at a good level. That's what they're trying to do. But the reality is, when you get our bottom league teams and your bottom league teams, that's just you're just gonna see quality football at that point. You're gonna see why they're at the bottom of those teams. Granted, you'll get like a upset. I don't know. I guess maybe would you consider Orlando kind of like a bottom tier team right now, but they're performing well in Leagues Cup, or even last year with Inter Miami, they weren't they last place before Messi came, and then they ended up winning it. So
yes,
you get maybe one of those situations.
Well, Orlando City, we talked about this before you hopped on, that they were actually on a 5-game unbeaten streak in MLS. They'd won 4 and had 1 draw in the last 5. So they're actually a pretty hot team coming into this tournament.
Okay.
And they spend moderately. They're not like a cheap team. I would say that they're realistically probably a mid-table team.
Okay.
And they're doing really well right now in MLS. And I think they lost to San Luis like on penalties in the group stage. Obviously in the group stage, it's the knockout stage, but they lost to San Luis in the group stage. They lost in penalties. I think it was like 5-4. So they're not unbeatable. Now, the funny thing is, we also mentioned, this is a big flaw with the tournament. So Cruz Azul, this is a home game, but it's at Orlando City Stadium and they're playing Orlando City. So that's so, you know what I'm saying? It's just so, that's one of the biggest flaws with this game or this tournament, is to have a home team is actually in the away team.
Yeah. No, I think this goes back to like, this is where they didn't iron all the details from the corporate guys who are organizing this stuff, because I think, like you said, one of the big talking points is like, it's not really fair to some degree that all the Liga MX teams are always coming to the US. So there's no real home field advantage, but the logistics of it just don't make any sense. Like, imagine if they were like, we did actually have some type of home field advantage. It doesn't make sense, for example, like New England Revolution come from Boston all the way to Mexico City. You know what I mean? So like the logistics doesn't work there. And then also going back to the Libertadores thing, that's one reason that I don't think it would, in some aspect, it wouldn't work. It's just, it's a bit messy, but I think we could iron it out. But it's just, not all fully, orchestrated correctly to fully 100% capability.
And just to correct you really quick, Will, they actually beat San Luis 5-4 on PKs, and they were top of their group. Orlando City
Oh,
was,
okay.
and they're playing as a visitor at home. So that goes to show you how wacky the rules are of this tournament, and they can probably ironed out a little bit better. And then one more update, since we're kind of, I know we're focused on the Orlando City Cruz Azul game, but kind of covering everything. We do have a scoring update: 1-0 Santos Laguna over Cincinnati. 11 minutes going on in the game over there. So we've already got the first goal of the night by Santos Laguna, and
That'd be an upset.
that was Anthony Lozano in the 5th minute, who scored for Santos Laguna. Yeah, it would be an upset. And looking at I'm looking. I don't know if you still have the table there.
Wow.
But they would move on to face the winner of Philadelphia Montreal, the winner of that Santos Cincinnati game. So, man, we already started off with a bang.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if Orlando scored or not. I don't know how far you guys are ahead. Or
I just saw it looked like they just he kicked the goalkeeper or ran into him. I think they waved it off. I think that was the foul was called before. That was close though. Okay, so he tripped him up.
Yeah, it looks like it was definitely a foul. Definitely a foul.
I like these kids. I like these goalkeeper kits Cruz Azul has.
Yeah, it's homage to like the 70s during a golden era. So yeah,
Is that your coach right there? The guy with that we just saw on the screen with the if that's your coach, he looks like he's like 29.
Martin Anselmi. I don't know. I haven't seen him pop up yet, or I must have missed it.
Let me see.
Yeah, he's a young guy. He's like 38, 39.
Yeah, well, the guy they show, he was wearing like just a shirt. He was wearing like a gold chain. It looked like the dude he could be playing out there. Like he looked like a player. He looked like he was 27, 28 years old.
He does look young if that's him. But yeah, I think a little background on Martin Anselmi. I think he was a journalist. He never made it to the pros, but he just kind of like backpacked his way into like this elite level. It was really interesting. He assistant jobs from all over. Did some work in Europe as an assistant in Brazil, and then he really kind of like conquered Ecuador and the Sudamericana where he won it, and then he got this big opportunity at Cruz Azul, and things have just been running. He's been running with it since he's joined the club.
Yeah, I can tell you,
it's working out well for him.
Yeah, it looks like he spent some time as an assistant in 2019, 2020 within the Independiente del Valle. I can tell you, I have some friends that work within that club, and it is one hell of a club when it comes to analytics and getting certain players ready and prepared to go to Europe. I mean, that is the whole function of that club. And he was the head coach there last year. So it doesn't surprise me that, that he got hired by a team in Mexico, because that seems to be kind of the route where a lot of teams now are going and hiring Argentinian coaches.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's always been the case in Liga MX. We love ourselves some Argentine coaches, even like with the national team. Like we just had a plethora of Argentine coaches.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'll be curious to see if we eventually see more. We've obviously seen the Liga MX players come to MLS. We've seen Mexican international players come to MLS. I wonder when we will see a Mexican international manager come to MLS and coach. Now one of the coaching hires I would have loved to see come to MLS or take over the expansion team San Diego is El Piojo. I would love to see Miguel Herrera coach San Diego, especially now. I know he's controversial. A lot of people think he might be washed, but Tijuana, the last team he just managed, is 20 minutes from San Diego. I think he's better than half the managers in MLS, even if he isn't as good as he used to be. And I love, I know that some people might say this is his downfall, but I love his personality. I like the fire he brings, the passion. I like how he holds his players accountable. And I think that he is a PR dream as far as like the quotes and the one-liners you would get from him.
Just the content you'll get from.
Yeah, exactly. So that I wonder when we'll see. I can't think off the top of my head the last time a Mexican international or a Mexican national coached in MLS. I don't even know if there has been. Has there?
Gonzo Pineda, he had a
Oh, Gonzalo Pineda. That's right, Gonzalo Pineda. That's true. He did with he did coach with the Atlanta United. But I wonder if we'll see one who had a coach who's had experience in Liga MX make the move over to MLS. But yeah, Gonzalo Pineda definitely did, and I think I didn't follow his career in Liga MX. I think he was just like an average player in Liga MX, but he wasn't a very good manager for Atlanta United. Honestly, he failed pretty hard. But yeah, I mean I think honestly with this partnership that MLS was wanting to try to get some of the Liga MX fans, maybe even like yourself. You say you're from Boston, or you live in Boston still?
Yeah, born and raised in Boston.
Okay, so obviously you favor Cruz Azul. That's your childhood team. You love the Cruz Azul, but you also have a little bit of a soft spot for New England Revolution. I think that they were hoping to do was get some of the people in your camp who doesn't really care much for MLS, but they're trying to convert you to be a full-blown MLS fan, and having a term like this in the in America, where you get to see maybe your favorite team play a MLS team and maybe do a good job against them, could entice you to want to stick around and be like, yeah, that was cool. I might actually go watch more Revs games now.
No, yeah, definitely. I think it's an interesting one because when I think there's just always this big discussion about how America doesn't have like a soccer culture. But I mean, as you guys know, I'm not sure where either of you are located, but I'm assuming you guys have a plethora of like immigrants who have came to this country for a better life, and you grew up with immigrant kids from Colombia. For me, I have a lot of Brazilians here, Guatemala, all these people, right? So they bring that with them and those traditions with them. So if you find a way to kind of like be able to identify those like cultures and immerse it into like the MLS club, I think you could easily do it. Like for like a quick example, like James Rodriguez, if you went to Orlando, bunch of Colombians down there. I mean, we saw, not the horrible, that mess we got.
That might not be a good idea, honestly. Keep James Rodriguez away from Miami.
But I will tell you this: that stadium, he filled up that stadium.
I think so, but also I think that novelty would only last a certain amount of games because I live in Miami, born and raised in Miami. My parents are from Uruguay. I mean, soccer runs through my veins. Will can tell you we've talked for hours at a time about all sorts of stuff. And I mean, it's hard to say that even in Miami with the large Argentinian and Colombian, Venezuelan community that we have here. I was at the game last night, and there was nobody there. There might have. It is a 21,500 seat stadium. There might have been 8,000-9,000 fans out there, and I know that there's some hostility between the supporter groups and some fans because of Leagues Cup, and also there's some other stuff amongst the Inter Miami supporters and the front office with them raising ticket prices and not giving them enough benefits, et cetera, et cetera. But I think that is the negative part of American sports and the fact that fans even last night where tickets were $50-$60, they wouldn't pay $50-$60 to go see Suarez, Alba, Busquets, Bernardeschi, Insigne, but they're gonna pay $250-$300 to go see Real Madrid, AC Milan, which is a glorified practice game, and Vinicius is only gonna play 35 minutes. So how can you? I mean, I agree with you that the soccer culture is here. But I also somewhat disagree in the fact that if you just bring certain star players, and at one point I thought that way, but with this whole Messi mania thing going down here, if Messi doesn't play, nobody goes, and it's a shame, man. And I love it because tickets are cheap, and I don't have season tickets, so I buy and I go. But it's just a shame that you can't get fans out there to see these guys, and it's not like they're that removed from their great playing days.
No, you're right. My ideology is not perfect, but I don't know. I just think it's there. It's trying to figure out how to like get someone like me to go to the Revs is the real question. And I just don't think you have the right people maybe in charge to kind of get that. I mean,
100%.
It's a complicated one.
Well, I'll say this, Oscar. I think if unfortunately you're in a market where the soccer team doesn't get a lot of attention. The ownership really doesn't care as much about what they're doing with the team. They've been good the last couple of years when they had Bruce Arena as their manager. and they just spent I forgot his name, but it's the young Argentinian from Boca Juniors.
Lucas Langoni.
Yeah, they just, I don't know if you know that, but they just spent $7 million on him to bring him in. I think what they have to do is they have to win, and they just have to act like they care. You can't just buy a guy every 4 years and think that that's going to be good enough for the fans. I mean, they had, I'm sure that you've seen Carlos Hill play a couple times for New England. He's been great. He's honestly, you could make the argument he's been the best player in their history. Won MVP of the league, single-handedly got that team to spots they'd never been. And they have the MLS record for most points in a season because of him. And I think you have to capitalize on it. You can't just sign one guy and just think that's good for years to come. You got to continuously improve your team. I think that's a thing MLS is starting to figure out. But to your point about big names, I think it's all about who it is to get the fan attention. Now, so Inter Miami was the worst team in the league last year. They signed Messi, got everybody in the world at least interested at the moment for Miami and MLS. Now we don't know how many people stopped watching after a certain period of time and was just, interested for a month, 2 months, a couple weeks. But if just, for example, Orlando City also has a huge population of Brazilians, they were to sign like a Neymar, I think that would be something that could, garner fans' interest longer than just a couple weeks and a lightning in a bottle. I think fans would go to all the games if someone like Neymar, because that's obviously,
even if he doesn't play though. That's where we're.
If they're good, I think they will. The thing with Inter Miami is that, they've been good recently, but the thing with Inter Miami is that when Messi didn't play last year, I think they lost most of their games, and Danny, when he didn't play last year, but the team was very limited in depth. I think if the team is good, they will show up still if one player is missing. It's all on the specifically based on each situation. It's all on each team and like how good they are and like what players they have. Now they have Suarez and Busquets and Alba. I think last night there's a lot more context to it last night about Miami. Danny could even say this, there was something about them giving free tickets out. There was a whole just chaotic situation with Inter Miami, and the reason why that was. And plus, too, this is another important issue, Oscar, with Miami, is they don't even actually play in Miami. They play in Fort Lauderdale. So you have to drive an hour away from Miami to go watch them play, kind of like what you would have to do with the Revs. If you live in Boston, you have to drive an hour to Gillette Stadium to watch them play.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the American sports conundrum, right? I mean, how many teams across the NFL, NHL, MLB that they say they're like this big city, but it's actually like, not really in the city. But it's one of those things where I don't know. It's a complicated one. I think that's one of the negatives of MLS. They're trying to operate MLS like it's one of the big four, and you can't operate it like one of the big four. It's just a different sport. Like salary cap, like you can't. As soon as you guys take away the salary cap, you guys would surpass us like in 2 seasons. Quite honestly, in my opinion. But but then again, it's like a double-edged sword. I think the reason why too so many Liga MX and people want to ignore, but European want to copy the American sports model. It's because the money. I mean, how crazy is it? Like a lot of the big topic is too with like the relegation stuff. There's a reason why it makes, from a business perspective, it makes perfect sense. Why would you want relegation when the evaluation of a team never is going to fluctuate up and down? When you're going to have a team be worth $1 billion, and there's historic teams in Europe that not even worth that because of the relegation. So it's like a double-edged sword in a way. It's like, just how can you balance the sport and the economics and the business is the real key, I think, with American soccer in general.
Oh, and it's also the landscape and how big the country is as well, because in Europe, what Spain might be the size of like a Washington,
that's true.
or something like that. So the in terms of when you're playing your games every week, or sometimes they're playing Champions League, you're not flying 6, 7, 8 hours to play your games. Sometimes it's an hour, sometimes you might even take a train. So I think that also affects somewhat of the MLS. And not only that, but the fact that there's so many teams as well all over the place. I mean, just in Miami, you've got so many semi-pro, amateur, adult leagues that would probably compete with some of the lower MLS teams or some of the decent USL teams. So there's so many teams. It would be so hard right now to do some sort of relegation, promotion, because it's just all over the place. It really needs to get a little bit more cleaned up in order to get there. And Will, there's some New England guys that might have an issue with you saying that I forgot who you said who was their best player. Oh, Carlos Hill. Remember, they've had Clint Dempsey on their team, Taylor Twellman.
But we didn't have like prime Dempsey. Like if we had like full-on Dempsey, then yeah. But the reality, we had like beginner Dempsey. But Dempsey's
I would
my
take
favorite.
Carlos Hill over both of those guys.
I agree. But hey, Taylor Twellman, historic goal scorer in the MLS and historic loudmouth for Apple TV. And Shauri Joseph, another historic New England Revolution player that, not on the level of a Carlos Hill, but definitely in terms of the name and the recognition that if you say Shauri Joseph in New England, people for sure are going to know who that is.
Yeah, that guy's a legend. I think I played for his I don't know if he had like his own club team, but at some point he ran some type of thing, and I went to when I was a kid.
You know who Petrovic might end up being if he gets some minutes and gets out of the Chelsea hell. He might end up being the best player to ever play for the Revs with his potential. He has like top 10 goalkeeper in the world potential. He's not a top 10 goalkeeper in the world, but he is probably the best goalkeeping prospect I've ever seen in MLS personally. But Oscar, back to like the distancing. With you living in Boston, right? If they got that downtown stadium built, they've reported about for the Revs, how much more inclined would you be to go watch the games instead of being a 2-hour round trip? It's 20-minute round trip.
Yeah, I mean, with traffic, I don't know if you know anything about Boston traffic. It's horrendous, so it wouldn't be a 20-minute round trip. But yeah, without a doubt, I think that's the beauty about these sports stadiums in the city. You just get like a different vibe. Like, I mean, like me when I go to Fenway, dude, it's like the best time. When you go to Foxborough and Gillette, it's like dead. You're like in the middle of nowhere. But where they're building it, it's in Everett, so it's kind of like on the harbor. And they just built a casino there, so that's a good time for me.
Hell yeah!
You'll be
hit up the sports book before and hit up the game after.
Exactly.
So you think you'll be more inclined? I mean, obviously you support the team, but Cruz Azul has got your attention in your heart. But if there is a team that conveniently located to you, you think that's going to obviously pique your interest more, and you'll be like, the Revs are. I think I'm gonna go check a Revs game out tonight.
I think so, because think about it. Like I said, it goes back to what you were saying. Like, if the ownership cares, show that you care. First of all, Gillette Stadium is a turf field. We know majority athletes, especially in soccer, do not like turf, and it's proven studies that show the amount of injuries spike when you're playing in those type of conditions. So hopefully we would get a grass stadium, and first of all, it'd be smaller too. Like, even for a good night in Gillette for the Revs, we'll just fill that bottom half, and it still looks dead, kind of, like an empty 60K stadium where the Pats play. And the reality is, as a Boston sports fan, Gillette and the Patriots are like, they coincide together. So like when you go to Gillette Stadium, you're not thinking, I'm going to like the Rev Stadium. I'm going to Patriots Stadium, football specific stadium. So like the identity of Foxborough and Gillette is, the New England Patriots. It will never be the New England Revolution. Now, if they get their own stadium in Everett, a soccer specific stadium, I think you'll get more people to go. And like you said, it's not going to be a 60K stadium. It's going to be no more than 25K, I think. So the exclusivity of going to the game too, it'll spark up the interest. And like, again, going back to like just the market too, in Everett, it's a lot of Latino, Brazilian community too. Like I said, if you can tap into that culture and get them to care about soccer, I think you would be able to get them, because I mean, you see something like LAFC or LA Galaxy, a lot of Mexican American community, Guatemalan, Salvadorians, they fill up stadium. They fill up more than us. I can tell you that. It's more consistent. It's not sellout every time, but I've been to the LAFC stadium, and every time I've gone there, it's been full, a packed house.
Incredible atmosphere.
Couple of scoring updates, guys. New England Revolution is up 1-0 on NYCFC in the 30th minute. I don't know who scored the goal yet. They haven't posted it. And Cincinnati has tied Santos Laguna. Luca Orellano put in a goal in the 11th minute. It is 1-1 there in the 30th minute. So 3 goals so far in the first 3 games. And I don't know if Oscar or you Will saw a picture of what Foxborough Stadium looks like right around kickoff. But if there was 400 people there, I could probably count the amount of people in the shot I just saw. So I mean, it's sad.
Yeah, no, it's funny because I have there's a core group of people that I know that actually go to go to the Revs games, and I just whenever I see his Snapchat and he just has that picture, he has 10 seats all to himself, just laid back like this, and you can just see how empty the stadium is. But yeah, it is sad. It's been like that since the beginning. So I don't know. We'll have to figure that out.
Yeah, well, also too, I always thought about, people are willing to drive, especially for the Patriots. Excuse me, for the Patriots, because of how good they've been, especially over the last 2 decades. I've always wondered how much more popular or how much crazier the buzz would be if they had a downtown stadium. The Patriots did, and they actually played in Boston. I feel like that would have been what they were on steroids, and it would probably, God, who knows how much the tickets would have been to have that, especially in the Brady era.
Yeah.
Okay, there's the manager. See, look how young he is. You see that, Danny?
Yeah, I see him.
Dude, he looks like he's 28.
Yeah,
it's crazy. But yeah, so I think that once they get the downtown stadium built in Boston, it's hopefully going to be a nice stadium. Hopefully the crafts don't cut any corners. The picture, the renderings of it looks very boring and bland. It looks like it's just a box right now. I don't know what the hell it's supposed to be, but it doesn't look very aesthetically pleasing right now. But hopefully they build a really nice stadium. And I think that when you do that, Oscar, it's almost like you're an expansion team again, because you're moving an hour away. And I think it's going to give a lot of buzz. And who knows, if the Revs are good, having that brand new stadium, they might be the talk of the town.
It could be, like you said, it has the potential to be, something really great. The only thing is, I will say, where they're planning to do it, it's not like you. I don't know if you guys ever been to Fenway Park, but
yeah, I've been.
So you know how Fenway is. You're in Boston. You can feel the Boston vibe. When you go to where they're gonna build it, it's really gonna be a casino and the stadium. There's nothing there. There's nuclear plants in the background. They're gonna try to build it. But nonetheless, It's on the harbor and I'll have a nice little view. But ideally, I would want it to be somewhere in Boston. But because of the logistics and the way Boston is, but that's the best we'll get. It's still be better than being in Foxborough, though.
Realistically, how long do you real quick, Danny? I'm sorry to cut you off, but realistically, Oscar, from where you live right now in Boston, where they're planning to build it on a normal traffic day, how long do you think it would take you to get there? 30 minutes?
No, man. Especially if it's packed out, it could be 45 to an hour. I don't know if you've ever heard the stories about the Celtics players trying to get to TD Garden. They take 2 hours just because of the traffic. But the good thing is we'll have public transport that can actually take us there versus right now we don't. There is something, but nowhere to the scale if you were in the city. So traffic is always going to be a problem, but that's but it'll be different. It's different being worth it because you'll be in the city at least versus you're driving an hour plus to Foxborough where there's nothing, and then you're going to go back home after an hour after maybe a bad result. That's not a good time. At least if you have a bad result in Boston or wherever, you're in Boston, so let's rip it up at the casino or in the city.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, the cool thing about Fenway is literally you could be, you go bar hopping before the game to tons of bars. The atmosphere is everybody's out on the street having a good time, and that's the really cool thing. So if you're not going to have all those bars and it's just a casino, I think it's still a step up from Foxborough because you're essentially going to a football stadium where you're going to tailgate an American style thing. At least here it'll be a little bit different. You can head to the casino. I can tell you when I went to the Uruguay-Colombia game in Charlotte, it's really cool that the Charlotte Stadium is in the middle of downtown, so they have bars all over the place. Now to get into the city, it's a pain in the butt because everybody's going to the game. But if we parked I don't know, half a mile out, $25, no big deal. And you just start hitting up the bars all over the place. And that's the cool thing and the vibe. And as people start getting together, you get your bars and stuff like that. I mean, I can tell you right now, Inter Miami doesn't have any of that, but what they're planning on doing with, with the new stadium at Miami Freedom Park is essentially that. It's going to be a stadium with a bunch of, retail things all around and hotels and things like that with public transportation. So, as long as they're moving these stadiums to where more people can get to the stadiums in a more efficient way, I think, teams are moving in the right direction.
Let it out. Now, is the
100%.
Miami Stadium actually going to be like in Miami?
Yeah, so it's going to be right next to Miami International Airport. So legit, if you want to fly in at like 2:00 in the afternoon for the game, watch the game and fly out at 11, or the next morning, there'll be, a hotel there so you can stay the night and fly out the next morning. So they're making it very, very, very easy for, folks that are, tourists to basically come and watch the game. And I think that that's a smart thing to do because, Miami is just so tourist centric that, I mean, you go to a Heat game, and I have Heat season tickets. I've had them for over 25 years, and 50% of the people there are tourists, going to see, a basketball game for the first or second time. So I think it's a smart idea for Inter Miami, what they're doing, and you'll be able to get there. They have public transportation. There's a train you'll be able to take there. So again, very smart putting the stadium where they're gonna put it.
Good to know.
Yeah. And also too, it's going to be a world-class stadium. I think it's going to cost like, was it going to be close to $1 billion, or was it going to be like $500 million?
Something like that. Yeah, I think close to $1 billion. And the Inter Miami just the county of Miami-Dade just got a grant from the governor of the state of Florida, $8 million towards the infrastructure. So I mean, I don't know how much that's going to go because it's a huge project, but yeah, it looks like the stadium's going to be built at the end of 2025, and hopefully the idea that the fans have is Messi's going to inaugurate it in 2026. He'll sign for that additional year, and he'll inaugurate it.
What's the seat capacity? Do you know?
I think it's going to be 25,000. So currently, right now, they're at 21,500 at Chase Stadium. The new stadium will be 25,000.
Nice.
Yeah,
I think it should be. I think they should have made it a little bigger. I think should have made it about 30 to 32, maybe even 35, because at 35 you could probably host World Cup games. I don't think at 25 you can. So they'll most likely be hosting the World Cup games at the Dolphin Stadium.
By the way, that's such a dumb rule by FIFA, in my opinion.
The stadium size?
Yeah, like you have to have it be X amount. Like, first of all, there's some group games where like not even half the stadium's full. So I don't know. That's just my opinion.
It's all about the money potential. Even if they don't sell out, it's just all about the potential to be able to sell out and make more money. Yeah, Inter Miami, they definitely could have had a 30 to 35,000 seat stadium. Nashville SC doesn't have nearly the support because they don't really win as much or spend as much. They have a 30,000 seat stadium. They have the biggest stadium in the United States, soccer specific stadium. So I think Inter Miami could have easily had 32, 30, even 35,000, because when Messi leaves, we know they're going to replace him with someone else, like a big name. No one's going to ever be bigger than him, but they're not just going to let Messi leave and just never sign another big name.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Hey guys, I'm sorry. I got to hop off really quick. My wife needs a little bit of help with my son. But I'll hop back on in a little bit.
I'll put you in the backstage if you want, Danny. That way, when you come back, I'll just add you if that's cool.
Yeah, that's fine. No worries.
Okay, I'll just do that. But Oscar, yeah. So Cruz Azul, so far, is this kind of like, I guess, what you?
I did not expect this. We're kind of getting cooked right now. I think it's tired legs.
Yeah, well, I mean, they played. This is their third match in what, a week, 8 days or something like that. So maybe it's not exactly 8 days, but they played a lot of games. And based on what I've read, that Liga MX kind of like cramped the first 4 games all together just to try to get those in before this. Then they play like 4 games in like 9 days or something like that, or 10
something
days.
Like that. Yeah, we were having midweek games and everything like that.
Yeah, both weeks, I think. So I think that these teams are just exhausted because they were still in preseason form. So they're playing 4 regular season matches and then having to come to America and play in this tournament on the road for a month. I think that we could see some fatigue with the team or certain teams and players. Club America, they people kind of go back and forth if that's a bad thing or a good thing to have a month off or 2-3 weeks off. But I mean, they're going to be well rested.
No, I think so. Yeah. Well, you can argue both, right? They'll be rested, but they might be rusty, right?
Yeah.
But I think for them it'll suit them, in my opinion.
Are they the real deal? Like, do you think? Oh, what a save! It's a good.
Oh
I
yeah,
think
that
that
was.
was. So is Club America the? So I think Club America is right now is like 10th in Liga MX in the standings. So are they the real deal, or do you think that you said they've won? They've won the league or it's the Clausura and the Apertura,
Yeah,
right?
back to back. You're the back to back champs.
So do you think that they going to fall off, or do you think that they're still the real deal?
I think they're the real deal. They have the same group of players. They have the same manager. The project is still intact. I don't think the league reflects necessarily what the capabilities are, but I wouldn't sleep on them. I wouldn't want to play them right now. I could tell you that. But I think they're certainly one of the favorites. They have to be. They along with like Columbus, right? Because they're the champions. You have to respect the champions, and back to back in Liga MX is no joke. The last time that happened was with Leon back in 2012 season. So that's almost 12 years ago, and it's not an easy feat.
Yeah, and I think that that's good for the league. So MLS had this issue, right, where their biggest brand, at least it historically has been their biggest brand, is LA Galaxy. And you know that as well. And they haven't been good. They haven't won anything in 10 years. They've been okay in spurts, but they haven't been what they are. They're not having the same results that we're used to seeing them have.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Club America, obviously, they've won both titles back to back, but there was a stretch where they kind of were struggling. And I know that Chivas had been struggling, and Tigres, Tigres had been pretty consistently in competition for the title, but we'd had all these other teams that had won. Do you think that was bad for Liga MX to have their big brands not win the title for that time? And kind of like, now that we're seeing that again, is that going to help bring the league back?
I don't know. That's a tricky one because, like, actually, yes. I'm gonna say yes because the reality is like if Chivas is in a Liga MX finals versus like now like the northern clubs like Tigres and Monterrey, the reality is the eyeballs are not going to be there like as like if a Chivas or America or Cruz Azul is going to be in the final. Same thing with like I don't know. Like I'm assuming. Correct me if I'm wrong. If LA Galaxy somehow got into the MLS Cup final, right, versus like a Charlotte, right? Where's the viewership and the money's going to be? It's going to be with the Galaxy, right? At the end of the day. So yeah, it's one of those things that I think that correlates and that applies to like not just our sport. I mean, just look at the NBA. The NBA would love like the Celtics and Lakers finals every year, no matter how bad they are, right? So I think 100%. It's the same thing once you're like established. Like I think for me, like Galaxy is one of the. I don't even know if you guys have like a big four because in Mexico we have the big four and now Monterrey and Tigres. But like Galaxy is one of the big guys, right? Because they have the titles and they have that history at the end of the day, and they're also one of the founders, right? Correct me.
Yeah, yep.
I know Revs is too, but yeah, you know what's crazy too? I was thinking about this. Revs would literally be the Galaxy if we had just won all those finals against them,
right?
Or even half of them.
Exactly. Well, and see, that's another thing too. The big four, like you said, in Mexico, and people look. It's one of those things people talk about in MLS. If like they want parity, they want teams to be able to have a chance to win it each year, different teams. But I think that the good thing about those, like the big four, is that they have such a big brand, and people either love them or hate them. But even if they're playing a team that. Like say that San Luis is playing Club America, right? Even if there's a fan who doesn't like either one of those teams, like yourself, I'm sure that there's fans that are going to watch because they probably want to see Club America lose.
Oh yeah, that's me 100%. Yeah, every time I hope they lose every time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So fans are even tuning into. Even the haters are tuning in. Which I'm not calling you a hater, but you're not a fan. You want to see them lose.
I'm a hater.
But you're tuning in. You're wanting to see them lose. You're going to watch the match and see them and see how it's going. And MLS, I just don't think has that yet. So LAFC and LA Galaxy El Trafico is the biggest rivalry in MLS, in my opinion. It's the most, you know, high stakes, entertaining rivalry in MLS right now. It's one of the younger rivalries. But if LA Galaxy's playing Seattle, which is the Cascadian Cup, with Seattle and Portland have a big rivalry, I don't think Portland fans are necessarily watching that game. Oh yeah, I hope the Galaxy beat.
Yeah.
I just don't think that that's at that level yet.
Yeah, I just think the sport too it's hard to judge because think about it again. All these teams, even the founders, they're basically my age, right? It was founded in 1996, versus like even like one of the biggest clásicos in Mexico is Chivas and Club America, right? Like for me growing up, even though I'm a Cruz Azul fan, that was like such a huge game. It really is our version of like a Real Madrid and Barcelona. That's like ours in Mexico. It's really big, man. Like the whole country really watches it, either wanting Chivas to lose or Club America to lose, but it's mostly everyone wanting Club America to lose for the most part. But and yeah, you're right. In MLS, you quite don't have that. I guess the LAFC and Galaxy, like you said, is the closest thing now. But
that's a huge rivalry. That actually is. I don't know if you've watched it or how many times you watched it, but that game is crazy every time. And you can just like in MLS, they try to create this rivalry that feels inauthentic and it's fake. But that one, you can just feel the hatred from both sides. These two sides really despise each other.
Yeah.
When they play each other, you can really feel it.
No, yeah, I saw it. I always see it on my timeline with like the Liga MX community who are like the MLS, who support the Galaxy or the LAFC. But I think the first one I really watched was when Zlatan was still in, when he first came in. That's when he scored like that scissor kick and crazy, and like the Vela and Zlatan banter, which was funny. I remember watching that. But yeah, I remember that. Yeah, but like you said, it's like what, 2 years old, 3 years old? It's not 2 or 3, but it's like 5
years old now. But still, when you're comparing Chivas and Club America, that's what,
almost 100,
100 years old. Yeah, exactly. So and that's the thing with MLS is it's going to take time to build history. You can't. It just takes time to build the history and rivalries in the sport. I'm sure that LAFC and LA Galaxy is going to look even crazier and more competitive in 30, 40 years than it is right now. But it's just MLS is really young. And you brought up a point earlier about the league. You said if they took off the spending, that they would be past Liga MX in 2 years, right? And that's a good point. That's why I think Liga MX, a lot of people have asked Oscar, why does Liga MX care about MLS? What's it matter? Why they just do their own thing? They don't need MLS. What people don't realize is they do, because MLS has potential more as a league, like you said, because of the international player it can attract. And if Liga MX like kind of is conjoined at the hip with MLS, maybe they can capitalize off that. And if MLS ever reaches a top 5, top 6 status in our lifetime, it's going to be good for Liga MX to have that relationship, because it's going to help them as a league too.
No, exactly. I really do think it's not going to solve all your problems, but I think removing the salary cap would easily, restrict teams to like just spend whatever they wanted to. You know what I mean? Yeah,
100%.
Easily, because at the end of the day, fans might not know this, or the casuals. Money talks. If you're going to pay X amount to a player, they're going to come, and then we have this benefit, or MLS has this benefit where despite what people think of the United States, it's a really nice, livable country to live in for the most part. Especially if you're wealthy and you live in these like popular cities. Like, who wouldn't want to live in New York, in the Boston area, Los Angeles? It's an attractive option. It has like all the recipes and resources to really attract big players at the end of the day.
Well, and that's the thing I've said about Mexico specifically. I'm not saying anything negatively, but the United States is just a melting pot that fits so many different cultures. Almost anyone can fit in here. And like you said about Yacamakis, he doesn't speak any Spanish. I'm pretty sure I haven't heard him in an interview. I think his English is pretty good. I would say. But here there's so many different languages. You could probably, when he was in Atlanta, I'm sure that there was a Greek population somewhere in Atlanta that he could have went to and felt some a taste of home and his culture from home. Whereas in Mexico, it's going to be probably pretty hard to find a Greek area anywhere in the
Or Greek
in the
community
country.
in general.
The Greek
Like,
community, exactly, yeah. So yeah, that's one thing about the United States that's so appealing is it's just very diverse, and anyone can pretty much fit in over here.
exactly. Yeah, I agree.
And so let me ask you about this potential move that they're talking about. See what your thoughts are. The LAFC are reportedly in talks with Antoine Griezmann, bringing him over this summer, possibly even getting that done next week. What do you think about a move like that to MLS? Is it Liga MX fan? Is that where you're like, man, I wish we were signing guys like that?
No, without a doubt. I mean, that's again one of the reasons why you guys can pull that off and we can't. At the end of the day, no matter, even if we threw like a bag at Griezmann, like he wouldn't want to live like. I'm not saying Mexico is bad, but what do you prefer living in LA or Mexico City is great, but LA life and Mexico City life is just it's two completely different things. You know what I mean? You got Hollywood, you got like this American culture thing that's worldwide, versus Mexico. It's a very specific, just Mexican culture at the end of the day. But yeah, it's one of those moves where like you do get jealous because the last big one we really had that's like at that scale was Gignac, and he's been here God knows how long. Yeah, because other than that, you guys get all these guys, even someone like at a small scale, like I know watching Orlando right now. Excuse me. When you guys had Kaká, Nani came, like the fact that you guys can bring those players in, and they don't want like a max contract because they want to live in Miami, in Florida, Orlando. We just can't compete with that in those regards.
Yeah, and Tigres is a team. I think when I really started getting into the weeds of the Liga MX MLS rivalry was with Tigres because I remember how much everybody was talking about like Hurt Gomez at the time. A lot of just Mexican media were saying that Tigres was really going for it when they signed Gignac and all these other players, Eduardo Vargas, who is the uh, Ecuadorian, Inar Valencia. They were signing all these players in this depth. Like that was three forwards they had on one team. And that was a team, Oscar, that you're like, man, they could win Copa Libertadores with that type of team. And that's when I was like, this is the real deal. Like MLS is going to be, they're in trouble if they're building teams like that in Liga MX. Like, so the thing with MLS too is that we do have the star power, but we lack the depth and the build throughout the roster. Whereas Liga MX is good throughout the roster. They have a lot of good players all the way in their starting 11 to their 18, and that's what MLS really struggles with. And that's why a lot of times when we would go to Mexico, they would just break the doors off of us because we just couldn't compete with the quality they had from one to our one might be better than your guys' one, but your 3 through 11 is superior to our 3 through 11.
No, without a doubt. I mean, I think it goes back to like the salary cap, right? If you guys didn't have a salary cap, you guys could have a stronger bench versus in Mexico, you can spend whatever the hell you want. I mean that's the only bad thing too. There's like discrepancy of like you guys might have it might be better where anyone at any given moment can maybe win it, the MLS Cup versus Liga MX. If we're being quite honest, it's a team who's probably spends the most or the richest teams are going to win it.
100%. And we had a question here. Didn't they sign Florian Thauvin? Or let me see. I do remember
Yeah,
him
they
signing with
did.
him,
I think
but
he
he
flopped
didn't do
though.
well, right?
He
Yeah.
flopped. Yeah, he couldn't get accustomed to Monterrey or that with that Tigres team,
Is he
and he
still
couldn't break in.
playing?
To be honest, like you said, they were signing all those players. How was he going to break in?
Okay, so he plays for Udinese right now, and he's been okay. Yeah, but yeah, so that's a player that obviously flopped. Now, who is the Spanish international? He's not playing for the national team that Monterrey signed, the midfielder,
Oh,
number 10.
Sergio Canales. He played for
Canales, yeah.
Betis.
See that's a good sign. That's honestly equivalent to like the Revolution signing Carlos Hill. Like that's what I kind of consider in that same tier. And he seems like he was a really good signing. They signed him from Betis, right? And
They also
I
signed
think
another kid from Spain, Oliver Torres, I think. He played on Atletico de Madrid, Porto. I don't know what was his last team, but I know he.
oh yeah, Torres. Yep, Oliver Torres. Yep. Let's see. Yep, played for Sevilla. midfielder. Yeah, that looks like a good signing too. He's only 28 years old. So that's the type of signings that that they need to make more signings like that. And hopefully now there was I'm trying to remember I get him confused. Was it Vincent Hansen?
Oh, the Dutch kid that went on Tottenham.
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about. I forget his name, but I know what you're talking about. Van Jansen?
Yeah,
Is
he
it
was
Van
another
Jansen?
flop, right?
What's that?
He was a flop for the I think he played for Monterrey as well, didn't he?
He played from Tottenham and then he played Monterrey. He didn't
Yeah,
get much.
Monterrey. Yep.
He didn't get much playing time, but he walked away with like 2 trophies. I think 2 medals. He won the CONCACAF in the league. I think maybe.
So he played at Alkmaar in their Divisi. He scored 27 goals in 34 appearances. Got to move to Tottenham. Only scored 2 goals in 31 appearances. Didn't do very well. Went on loan to Fenerbahce. Didn't do very well. Then he gets a move to Monterrey. He only scored 15 goals in 77 appearances for Monterrey. So not a very good stint. I think Gignac is really the only player from Europe that's not a returning player, actual European international, to come to Liga MX and completely destroy the league.
Yeah, I agree. I'm trying to think back, even like back in my youth days, to try to think. We've only really had pretty much South American internationals tear it up, but European, Gignac might be the only one.
Do people consider Gignac to be the best player in Liga MX history just because of what he's done?
He's definitely top 5. For
Yeah.
me, I have a little bias because I grew up on someone named Pepe Cardoso. He was a monster. And I think he's the top leading scorer. He's the top leading scorer for Toluca. I don't know if he's the top leading scorer for the league, though, but that's a big discussion right now. Like, he doesn't touch Cardoso right now, but he's getting there, to be honest.
Well, and also, too, I think that Gignac brought some credibility to the league. Like you said, not many players were coming there. He comes there, he destroys the league at like 29 years old. Tigres, you said, is on the outside of that the big 4, but he made them in that discussion. Tigres was honestly, like, I feel like from when Gignac got to Tigres till about 2019 or 2020, Tigres was arguably the team in Liga MX. They won the Champions League. I think they won a couple titles with Gignac, right?
They won. I might be wrong. I think he's on 5 league titles.
I'm looking it up right now. Okay, so they won the Champions League in 2020. They won. He's won the Golden Boot. Clausura and Apertura. He's won it 2 in Clausura and 1 in Apertura. And it looks like he's been the league's best player a couple times. It doesn't say. Okay, here we go. So he won the league. Are we considering each title like as one or? Okay, so the Apertura do you consider as one title and the Clausura as one title?
Apertura and Clausura are 1 title each.
So you're right. He's won 5. He won 3. From 2015 to 2019, they won 4 titles.
Yeah, I mean, when I try to compare like Tigres and even like Monterrey to an extent, even though they haven't won as much trophies as Tigres, but they've won a bunch of the CONCACAF stuff, so that counts for something, right? That's our Champions League. I compare him to like kind of like Manchester City. Like right now, City's like a big team right now, but they might not have like that history in that aspect. You know what I mean? Like a lot of plastic fans are coming on, and that's the case with like Tigres right now, because the reality is their fan base is only in northern part of Mexico versus like the big 4. There is Cruz Azul, America, Pumas, but Tigres is starting to get that because, as a young kid, especially if you don't have anyone that's like kind of like a dad or older brother introduce you or pass you on to the team that you grew up watching, you're just going to go to the team who always wins. You know what I mean? Just like people who watch Michael Jordan growing up or any team that's successful. Like, how many classic New England Patriots fans are going to be here from now on? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, there's going to be a lot that's left since they've been bad. But, Tigres too, you have to keep it also, don't not forget that they were also the runners up in Copa Libertadores in 2015, when that tournament was probably even harder back then because the league had, Brazil and Argentina had more talent and they weren't as much financial strains, so they weren't having to forcibly sell all their players immediately. So that's impressive as well. But with that team we talked about, they should have been competing and in contention for that. Yeah, but that's interesting. Now, let me get your perspective on this. What are your thoughts on these? I'm assuming do you support the Mexican national team or do you support the U.S. men's national team?
Yeah, I'm definitely Mexican first, but like at a World Cup, if U.S. they're my second team.
Okay, so what's your thoughts on the Mexican international players coming to MLS to try to capture the Mexican American fan base?
I mean, from a business perspective, I understand it. I'm personally not a fan. Like when Ache left Atletico de Madrid, he was on the cusp of being a starter and coming off the bench. I didn't like that, especially before World Cup year. And the reality is, I mean, I'm not dissing Liga MLS or Liga MX, but before World Cup year, if you're going from like a team that's playing Europa League or even Champions League to go to MLS or Liga MX, and financially, I get it, like to care your family, but I'm not a fan of it. But like again, I understand, why they want to do it. But like if it was up to me and I had to give them advice, I was like, hey, can you at least wait after the World Cup? But like,
so you're
I
not
get
a fan
it
of
too.
the Chucky
Like
Lozano move, huh?
What's that?
I'd say you're probably not a fan of the Chucky Lozano move then, huh?
I mean, no, but I understand too. He's getting thrown a bag, man. Like what is it, 25 million after everything? After 3-4 years.
Let me
I mean,
see.
after taxes, especially living in California, it's gonna go down to like 12. But still, I understand he's gonna have money to pass on to his kids.
So it says he signed a 4-year deal and he's going to be making between 7 to 9 million. We don't have an exact figure, but between 7 and 9 million a year, and which is good. I mean, I don't know what he's making at PSV right now.
It's definitely not that.
Yeah, but it's definitely not that. It's probably not even half that. Okay, so Lozano is making. It looks like Lozano is making around 3.5 million at PSV right now.
Mm-hmm.
So he's doubling his wages by going to MLS.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I mean that's a no-brainer, right? I mean doubling and also too how he's closer to home. He gets to also live in California in the United States.
San Diego, beautiful.
San Diego's beautiful city. So I feel like it just kind of checks all the boxes. And if we're being honest, Oscar, if he didn't take the money now, it's just going to get less and less each year. You're not going to be paying Chucky Lozano $8 million a year in 2 years when he's probably a worse player than he is right now. Like it's either now or never for the money.
Exactly, in which like I said, from like a personal perspective, I don't judge any of the players. Like even people now who go to Saudi, you're getting generational like wealth type of money. So like as a fan, you get frustrated, right? Like I know for you guys, I'm assuming your U.S. men's national team. Like I heard Weston was going to go to like Cincinnati or something.
Yeah.
But he's going to get thrown a bag too, which he's not going to get in Europe at the end of the day. And like, I get it. You know what I mean? As a fan, it's frustrating. You want your best players to tough it out in Europe and be at the highest level so they can maybe do something great for your country at a World Cup and just kind of live that stereotype, especially for you guys. I think you guys still living in that aspect. But even for us, we want to also be taken seriously too. And that's never going to happen when like if the players are only going to chase the money. But like I get it too. You know what I mean? Like I think I take the deal. If I'm being quite honest, I'm not going to be a hypocrite.
No, 100%. And we've seen this happen with Carlos Vela taking the money, coming to MLS at 29 years old at LAFC. Worked out pretty well for him. He's the best player in their club's history. Now, my thoughts on Carlos Vela is I think he's the best, the most talented Mexican player of all time. That's my opinion on him. I believe, but there's always been the question mark if he really loved the game and how much he was committed to it. But his talent, I mean, he's like the Mexican Messi almost, like just what he did. And at the one season in 2019 in MLS, he had 34 goals and 19 assists in one season in 32 games.
Yeah, he ripped it up.
Yeah, I mean, he's talent has never been the question with him. It's just always about his motivation. So it's cool to know that we had arguably you can't call him the best Mexican player because the production at match on the national team, he didn't obviously do as much. He didn't play for the national team enough. He didn't play in 2014 and 2018. He was his last hurrah, and he's like, all right, I'm done with this. I don't want to do it anymore. But as far as just Mexican international, he is my most talented player of all time. I think he's the most. I think in their prime, I think Vela is a better player than Chicharito.
Oh no, without a doubt. I mean, the two different players too, but like just from a football capability, Carlos Vela, like you say, he's top 5. Like for me, like one of the big ones for Mexico is like Cuauhtemoc Blanco, but like for me, like Carlos Vela is like 10 times, not 10 times, but he's just a better player. Even Giovanni Dos Santos for me is better than Cuauhtemoc Blanco, but I don't want to bring the Liga MX people to attack me.
Hey, Giovanni Dos Santos did not live up to his expectations. He arguably could have been the most talented of all time, but he just was never. He never even had a season where you're like, yeah, this guy's, he's good. Vela at least showed you what he could do when he played his best ball.
Yeah. I think with Gio, I think it was the injuries, because when he first started, he scored like, I think 4 goals like in his first 3 games, and then like he just always had these injury problems, even in Europe. And you combine that, and then just trying to rush in with the Galaxy when they weren't really good either. To be fair, I don't think they constructed a team around him either. He had Keane for like 1 season, right? I think.
Yeah.
If they had kept him, maybe they might have done something. But it's just one of those things where not everything clicked for him.
And Gio, I think throughout his they thought he could be the guy, but he can't be the guy. He's got to be one of the pieces in the whole puzzle. Like, how Messi was the guy. He did everything. He's the one that really got everything going. They thought that Gio could be that, but that's just not his play style. He's not gonna. You can't count on him either to do everything. He's not Sebastian Jovinko. He's not Carlos Vela. He's not going to do that. And also too, Carlos Vela, he's just so smooth, and like everything he did, he could pass, he could dribble, he had pace at the time, he could score. I mean, he's got one of the most beautiful left foots I've ever seen. I mean, they're going to make a montage of all the goals, all the curlers he scored in his MLS career off the right side. That's I think one of the things too about Carlos Vela is I think a lot of people were surprised he never went back to Liga MX, at least for just one final run, and played a season or two with Chivas or maybe with Chicharito, or just come back to league in general, because they probably would have paid him quite a bit of money to just play at least 1 or 2 seasons in Liga MX.
Oh yeah, I think just give you a little bit background of like Vela. I mean, you mentioned where there's multiple interviews where he says he prefers actually watching basketball versus soccer.
Yeah.
And he doesn't like that constant pressure, especially when you play for the Mexican national team. It takes a strain out of you. And he's had some problems with the federation when he was younger, where they kind of ostracized him, where he was punished and other players weren't as punished as heavily. So he just kind of had a sour taste, and he just doesn't like that stress and that kind of, I guess, soccer culture we have in Mexico, especially if you play for Chivas, dude. It's like a mental strain on you, because you're just judged every single day, and you have fans outside your home, outside of training, just saying like kind of horrendous things to you. So just wait till that happens here in MLS. Maybe one day we'll get there. We're like, I don't know, we're outside the facilities in Foxborough, and guys are just like, screaming the worst of the worst things at you. But I just think he doesn't want to deal with that anymore. And like you said, he made more than enough money over here, and he loves LA, dude. I mean, you could just.
He's the king of LA. I think, like, as far as like just like the soccer community, he's the king. Like, everybody loves him there, especially with the Mexican population. I think that is why LAFC became so popular, is because they were able to attract a lot of the Mexican American fans, and obviously winning and having Carlos Vela. It was just a good culmination, and it all just worked out in their favor. I'll be interested to see if the Chucky Lozano signing is successful off the pitch as Vela. I'm assuming there's a lot of Mexican Americans in San Diego as well. I wonder how many of those Tijuana fans probably there are going to come support San Diego FC. And is Chucky Lozano that big of a draw like Carlos Vela or Chicharito?
I think from a marketing standpoint, I think Chucky, from like, I'm not saying in terms of quality, but like marketing standpoint, I think Chucky's bigger than Vela because the word Chucky, he has that viral song, he has a good nickname to him. Like you said, everyone in the Mexican fans just love him on the national. I think they might love him more than they do Carlos Vela. I think only like deep cut people like myself love Carlos Vela, and like Gio. A lot of people think they kind of wasted their potential. They never lived up to the hype. But yeah, I think it could. But that's the key. I don't think Chucky has anywhere near the quality of Carlos Vela.
Yeah, I don't think he does either. Like that's why I kind of, if we're comparing him to Chucky or to Carlos and Chicharito, he's kind of like right in the middle. He's got more appeal than Carlos, but he is a better player than Chicharito. But Chicharito, obviously, you and I both agree that he's not better than Vela, but he is probably the most popular player of all time.
Oh yeah,
just from marketing and stuff. Like everybody has Chicharito when he was playing a lot and more relevant in the national team. Everybody I knew who was a Mexican fan had a Chicharito a green Chicharito kit. Everybody did.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, not even that too. Like, not only just the Mexican, Americans or Mexican fans, like even casual fans who are like, how many Man United fans are out there? Real Madrid fans are out there. Like they know him for being involved with those big clubs and having some participation with those clubs and being involved and having a decent, stints there. So you combine that with the marketability of Chicharito. Again, great nickname too. Carlos Vela is just Carlos Vela, or we like to call him Charlie Candle in Mexico too. But yeah.
How do you say that? How do you say Charlie Candle in Spanish?
Carlos Vela.
Oh, is
Vela
that really?
Vela means candle. Yeah, so that's why we call him Charlie Vela. Charlie. What was I saying? Charlie Candle.
Yeah, I did not know that. That's cool. Yeah, well, I normally call him just because LAFC has an announcer, or when they had the now announcing local, they had a local announcer, Max Bredos, and he'd always call him Carlitos. So that's I normally reference him as Carlitos just because hearing that iconic, especially right when he scores an amazing goal. But yeah, I think the nickname thing is a good point. I mean, even look at the coach like Miguel Herrera, El Piojo. I feel like that's like you got to have the nickname, man, to have the fans love.
Yeah, I mean, just from a marketing standpoint for any player, what I mean? Like Pulisic. I mean, even though they give it to like every American player, but like Captain America, right? It's a good nickname. But yeah, maybe one day you guys will get more, specific and creative nicknames.
Now, do you think that Liga MX is going to start to take the MLS model where they sell their domestic players instead of keeping them or buying them for? I'm trying to remember. I always get this confused, but I think it was Chivas. They paid. Now, obviously, they pay more because they only sign Mexican national or international players or national Mexican players, right? Mm-hmm. Except for Cade Cowell. He's technically American, but I know he's got obviously Mexican heritage. That one's kind of seems like out of the norm for them. It's when you go look at their roster, it feels weird to see all the Mexican international flags and then to see that American flag. But they paid $15 million because they're obviously going to have to pay more to get the quality players because they only sign Mexican players. I wonder if we'll see a shift away from that to where they'll allow these players to go to Europe, because that has to hurt the league when you keep your players, or the national team, the national team. It hurts the national team when your best players don't actually leave.
I mean, it goes back to like business and just economics of things. Like, I work in corporate America, so like just looking from like a numbers perspective, like it makes sense. Like I'm trying to give an example where like I don't know, like back in the day, like when Chicharito first went to Man United, I think United paid $6 million for him. There's another team in Mexico that would have easily paid $14 million. Now, from a business perspective, right? If you're Chivas, are you gonna sell Chicharito for $6 million, or will you sell it, or were you willing to sell to like a Monterrey, Tigres, Cruz Azul for 14, 15 million, 18 million? That's what happened with Rodolfo Pizarro, who was on Inter Miami at one point.
Yeah,
I think Chivas paid close to like something ridiculous, where there was like 18, something like 18, that.
Yeah, something like that. 15 is like between. He's like I'll tell you what. We'll look that up real quick. We'll look up I'll bring this back up because I'm curious now because I looked this up at one time. I think Chucky or Rodolfo Pizarro is like in CONCACAF. He's like 3 of the top 5 transfer records all time. Let's see. Only new players. Okay, we'll share this. We'll look at it. Oh, wrong thing. Okay. So he was sold. His highest fee was to Chivas for 14.75 million euros, and that was the 16-17 season. And then in 18-19, he got sold to Monterrey for 14.5 million euros. So he got sold twice. He's 2 times the most expensive fee in Liga MX.
Yeah. So like, and that's euros, right? So that's like close to 16, 18,
yes.
Right? Probably
in
US dollars. So like, again, going back to just like economics and just like business, like no European team is going to pay that for Pizarro because one, that doesn't match his worth at the end of the day. Realistically, he's not worth 18, 16. But in Mexico, we'll pay for it. They'll pay for it. And that's just and I just don't see that changing anytime soon because even though the players say like they want that easier route too, they can also say no and say no to the money too. But the reality is the club wins, whoever wants to buy them wins because they're going to make a ton of money. And then the players also going to get a fat contract, a nice big contract that will last them and they'll live comfortable in Mexico too. And they don't have to, prove themselves in Europe in these countries where like it's, you're going to compare Mexico weather to like, I don't know, the Dutch weather or English weather. But that just goes back to, I guess, more like players' ambitions in a sense. But I just don't see that happening anytime soon, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who else. Now, obviously, Chucky went to PSV from Pachuca, right? I think is where Pachuca. That was a big move. And I remember at the time, people were like, yeah, Chucky, he's going to be the best Mexican player of all time. He's going to be great. He goes to PSV. He does spectacular. Has a really good stint at PSV, right? And then he gets a move to Napoli, and I'm like, yeah, that's a good move. I like that. Like a mid to up, top table team in Serie A. That I think that would be a good fit for him. And then he had maybe one good season there, and he kind of hit a ceiling, and he didn't really. And then he started to regress. Honestly, I really don't know where it went wrong for him, but I would say Chucky, and this is a lot of players, right? But Chucky didn't live up to his expectations. You saw the potential, but you saw it in a very short amount. Like it didn't last, and it wasn't as long as you thought it would be.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of like a bunch of things. Like first of all, when he first went there, Carlo Ancelotti was the manager, and like, I mean, you just hear about all these stories, and he speaks fondly of Carlo, but then he got sacked, and then Gattuso came in, and they just butted heads, and there was never the right relationship too. So like, Gattuso was always just going to prefer different players. At the end of the day, it's not even that he wasn't good enough; he just preferred different players. So there is that too, and then I think something that I think CONCACAF players struggle with. I don't know if it's as much as Americans anymore because you guys, a lot of your kids, they're already like in the academies over there, or they go there very young already. But I remember something that popped out to me really a lot when I was younger is when Donovan went to Bayern, and he went maybe not Bayern, but he went to Germany at one point. He said that
Leverkusen. He played at Leverkusen.
There we go. And he mentioned that he went there with the attitude where like in high school I was the man, I was the best player, and in my school and whatever. And then you go to Europe, you're just a regular player. People love it, and everyone loved him in his hometown. And you get the same thing with like Mexican players and who go to Europe where like they're adored and they're like celebrities in Mexico, especially if they're international players. And they have a trouble kind of like starting from zero again and proving to be and try to be that that big of a star as they were in Mexico as they were in Mexico and try to be that in Europe.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I it's funny. I think that each national team has swapped like how they used to do it. used to, all the Mexican internationals would play in Europe for the big clubs, and they were really good like a decade ago. And now all the big U.S. men's national team players are playing in Europe and not in the domestic league. It's like they've switched roles or swapped sides. Um, and hopefully, Santiago Jimenez obviously gets a lot of. I know a lot of people give him grief because he's actually like Argentinian, but plays for the Mexican national team. I thought he was kind of your hope for having a superstar player. I know that's kind of hit a wall, and I know he gets a lot of hate. I see that a lot. He gets a lot of hate, especially from the U.S. men's national or from the U.S. men's national team fans. Um, let's see. Hold on. Julian says Donovan had a loan stint at Bayern. Yeah, he played at Bayern Munich for, I want to say, the 2009 season or 2010 season, but he also started his career off at Leverkusen.
Yeah, that's the
Didn't
one I
do very
was
well.
trying to refer to. Yeah, and he talked about that too, like how it was a really interesting interview. I don't know if you can find it. I think it was. I don't think it was an actual verbal interview. It was like one that like they wrote it in an article, but I think that always stood out to me from Donovan because like he he gave the Mexican national team help, but for some reason in Europe he just never quite clicked. Where I think he could have been easily like a Europa League type of player, like even like Clint Dempsey level, to be honest, if not a little bit better.
Oh, so my whole perspective on it is that Pulisic is what Donovan would have been if he had never left Europe
Interesting.
and played. Like that's because I think there's a lot of parallels between both players, even stylistically and just even the size, the type of player. Um, I think that Pulisic is literally what would have happened if Donovan had a successful career in Europe. Obviously,
Interesting.
Donovan was a good player. I mean, he was the U.S. men's national team's best player, and he played his whole career in MLS. But no, I don't think anybody's questioning if he was talented, right? I mean, clearly had talent.
Yeah, without a doubt.
And some of those games were legendary. Like Facundo Torres almost scores for Orlando City. Some I remember that Giovanni Dos Santos chip that he had against Tim Howard. That's like one of the craziest goals I've ever seen. It's so funny. It's like those players didn't perform well with their club, and then when they put the El Tri kit on, it's like they turned into a different person. Like Gio was like almost Messi-esque when he represented Mexico, but in the club football he always struggled.
Yeah, definitely. I think at one point when he was at Villarreal, that's when he had a little bit more consistency. But then, like
Yeah.
again, the injuries with him, he just always had like this hamstring thing going on, muscular injuries that he could never overcome. But if he stayed healthy, man, one of those things too, he could have been like way more profound with the national team and club level. If he just stayed healthy and maybe was a little bit more focused too, was a little bit of a party boy, I will say. But
Yeah, I think he was lazy too in a lot. I think he was like when he got paid by the Galaxy, because the Galaxy were paying him like $7 million a year, and that was back in 2015. So that's crazy money for that time. That would be like 12 to 13 now.
yeah,
And so he was making $7 million on a 5-year deal with the Galaxy back in 2015, and then he was in LA, obviously. I just think that was a bad combination for his personality, and I think that was just a bad pairing. I didn't really follow him after he went to Club America. I do remember that gruesome injury he had in his thigh where the guy stepped on his leg. That was disgusting, right?
yeah,
That was not good. But yeah, it's just sad because he had a lot of potential. I mean, hell, you could even make an argument that Jonathan Dos Santos had a better career longevity wise than Gio. And I don't think anybody would have thought that would have been possible. Everybody thought Gio was 10 times more talented than Jonathan Dos Santos. At least
yeah.
I
I mean, it's hard to compare because so they're two different players in a sense. But
positions.
in
Yeah.
terms of like, I get what you mean, but I do think that I mean, like I said, Gio and Vela both get like a lot of. It's like they do get a lot of hate because they came from like that under-17 championship, and everyone thought they were gonna be like our Messi and our R9 or whatever the case may be. Because Vela was at Arsenal, 16, 17, and
Yeah.
Gio was at Barcelona, so like the expectations were just like very unrealistic, and it's just one of those things where the fans they've always kind of wrote them off, but overall, I think they've had a decent amount of career. I mean, at the end of the day, Gio helped win them a gold medal, and Vela had probably one of the best European careers from offensive player in for in Mexican history. You know, obviously Hugo Sanchez is up there, but I mean, people they like to discredit. Remember when that season when it was like Vela, Messi, and I think Ronaldo, like the best La Liga player in that one season where he scored a ridiculous amount of assists and goals. But
Yeah.
the fact that you're even in that conversation is crazy.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's another thing too. Like I think that 2010 through like 2016 era was like the Mexican national team's golden. I think that was like their golden era of like talent because they had the Gio, the Vela, the Chicharito, the Andres Guardado. They had obviously Memo Ochoa, who's the best arguably the best goalkeeper in their history, still playing, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that they didn't really capitalize. That was a great team. That was a really good team, and I think that's kind of like where the U.S. men's national team is right now with their talent, but they don't really have a lot to show for it. And I do. Mexico being good is good for the U.S. men's national team because we need to both. It's like MLS and Liga MX. We need both of them to be good to make each other better.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, like I said, ideally, it's one of those things where like if we can, I think for us, like long term, if you really want to you want to take this sport serious, you would have to like secede from CONCACAF and join CONMEBOL, in my opinion. Even though like even if that means risking not being in World Cups, the reality is of facing Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, Chile in these qualifiers, man, they'll only elevate the game. And if that allows us to play in Libertadores too, I just think long term it's going to benefit the whole both countries, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, exactly. And Tuna is coming in right now. Now, and Tuna is an interesting player. He had a stint. He obviously got bought by Manchester City back in 2017 or 2018. He went on loan to the LA Galaxy for a season, had a pretty good year. They couldn't afford him, so he gets sold to who did he get sold to? He didn't end up at Cruz Azul at first. I think he was either on
Chivas, wasn't it Chivas? I thought he went to
Chivas. Yeah,
Chivas.
Chivas. Yes, exactly. And then he went to Cruz Azul. When I think of Antuna, right? I don't think he's a bad player, but he's almost like a knockoff or generic version of Chucky Lozano to me. Like I feel like he's not bad, but he's got good speed, but he's like average at everything else. I don't dislike him as a player, but he's a key cog in the national team now, right? I think I looked at him earlier. I forgot that he was even at Azul. I think he has like 70 caps for the Mexican national team. So it seems like he's a pretty important player for them, at least in this era. I don't know. I've never, if Antuna is like one of your key players, I feel like that's a bad sign because I don't think he would have even touched the field a decade ago, or if he was, he would have been a depth piece. He would not be getting 70 appearances with the Mexican national team a decade ago.
No, yeah. I mean, you said it earlier. We're kind of like in our worst generation of players, and he's the best of the bunch at the end of the day.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, but you know what's crazy? I think statistically, he has like more goals and assists than Vela and maybe Gio too.
Wow.
I'd have to look back on that, but I think he's up there because like every time he plays for us, he freaking scores, whether it's in qualifiers or in the Gold Cup. Like Vela and Gio output wasn't as much. They were obviously more involved with the play, but Antuna output is like crazy, and you have to respect it at the end of the day, I guess. But like I think I pretty much agree with everything you said about him. Like he's definitely not the greatest player to watch, but he's effective at the end of the day, and he's the best we got.
When he played for the Galaxy, I just remember his pace. He was always so quick with the ball. But everything else was, I mean, he would have the occasional nice finish, but it was just way too inconsistent. And I do think he's a better player now than when he played for the Galaxy 5-6 years ago, which is hard to believe it's been that long. But I honestly thought if he'd had a successful stint in Liga MX, because he's still young, he's only 27, like he's not 30 or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I think he got sold to Chivas back in 2019. I thought that if he had a year or two of a good season in Liga MX, he would have moved back to Europe and try to go again, which I'm surprised he didn't. I mean, I think he could have at least played back in the Eredivisie or maybe a lower table, French side or something like that, which would still be a step up from Liga MX or MLS. Disappointing that he just became a Liga MX lifer after he came back.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair to him, it's not completely down to him. I think it goes back when you asked the question of like, will Liga MX ever find a way to like export, more youthful players to Europe? It goes back to like the business. So there's been multiple offers from Europe. The only thing is Cruz Azul want, more money, or to a point where they're gonna at least make some money, because the offers that are coming in for him, they'll probably lose money because of how high we paid Chivas for it, along with Chivas also put a sell-on clause for Antuna, so like we're gonna split the profits anyway. So like if they sold him for six, if we sell him for six, Chivas is gonna get half of that. So Cruz Azul is gonna lose money at the end of the day. So I think if they even get something that they break even, they'd be willing to do it. But the reality is, it's it goes back to the business, and the money at the end of the day.
Yeah, well, I've also got. I'm looking at the transfer market. We were looking at it a few minutes ago. I'm looking at the top 10 transfers in Liga MX history, and it looks like I'm just counting them right now. 1, 2, 3, 4. So Ibanez is obviously an Argentinian international. I think he just recently got his citizenship not long ago for the Mexican national team, if I'm not mistaken. So 4 of the top 5 transfer fee history, payments and incoming transfers for Liga MX have been Mexican internationals. And even if you're not, like Jonathan Rodriguez, he got. I'm pretty sure Cruz Azul bought him from another Liga MX team. So even if these guys aren't Liga or Mexican internationals, some of these payments were probably bought. These players were bought from other Liga MX teams. I want to say Jonathan Rodriguez didn't he play for another team besides Cruz Azul?
He played for Santos Laguna and also played for Copa America after.
Okay, so put him in the category too. He was purchased by another another Liga MX team. So, and they spent 11.4 million euros on him. So that's like almost 13 million. I don't know if he's been okay in MLS so far, but he's a little older. I don't know if that price tag warrants like how good of a player he was. I know he was good at Cruz Azul, but 13 million is kind of a steep price.
Yeah. I mean, that's just kind of the business of Mexican soccer. At the end of the day, it's pretty ludicrous to kind of explain everything. But yeah, I mean, you look at the transfers, like it's crazy. Like I said, I think if Chicharito were to get that offer, like now, I don't think he would go to United, because someone would pay 20 million for him probably.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So Edson Alvarez, he was sold to Ajax in 2019-2020 for 15 million euros. I'm honestly surprised another team didn't try to buy him.
I mean, there definitely were offers, I'll tell you that. But I think that it goes back to like each player's ambition. He has a very strong mentality, in my sense. He's one of those players that the national Mexican fans have like a fresher breath there, because he does want to challenge himself. He does want to follow the footsteps of players who had a good career in Europe and with the national team. So it's up to the players to ambition to like, I don't want the money. I want to try to improve myself over there as well.
Would you say him or Jimenez is the best Mexican national team player right now?
I'd say Edson, just because he's a bit more established and he's playing in probably the best league in the world.
Yeah.
Not the best team, but he's playing against, the best teams week in, week out too. So I'd give the edge to Edson right now.
Yeah, I mean, he got sold for 38 million euros in last year.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty nice fee, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just looking at some of their other transfers. There's the players sold, just to see who they've sold recently to other teams and see how they've done. Like Mexican internationals.
We just sold our academy product, Rodrigo Huescas. He's playing in Copenhagen. I'm not sure how much he actually went for, but it wasn't that much, surprisingly.
Now Pineda is in Europe, right?
Yeah, Orbelin.
Has he done well over there? I know. I think he, if I'm not mistaken, is linked back up with Matias Almeida.
Yeah. I mean, from what I've heard and what I've seen, I haven't watched much of the Greek league, but he's been tearing it up over there. But take it with a grain of salt. It's the Greek league, and I don't think they've been
Yeah.
playing Champions League or Europa League. So, but he's been doing well, and it's in Europe at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. But that's what you need. You even need the depth pieces to be playing in Europe, right?
Yeah.
And then obviously there'll be a couple players in Liga MX that shines, and you're like, yeah, we'll give that guy a call up. We'll bring him in. Like Rogelio Funes Mori, he was really good with Monterrey, but I mean, taking him at 31, 32 years old, as a dual nat, I think that is kind of like, that just shows how weak the pool is if they're having to take a 32-year-old dual nat to be, an important piece of the national team. I don't think he's getting call-ups anymore, is he?
Not that I'm aware of. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, since Tata left, I don't think he's been involved.
Has it been that long? Really? Okay, 2022. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so 2020. So he had the 1 year. He had 17 caps and 6 goals, and he plays for Pumas now, which is kind of crazy that he finally left Monterrey, and he hasn't been doing good for Pumas. He's only got 1 goal in 12 appearances, but and that's a very important thing too, Oscar. When it comes to Tata Martino, I think he got a lot of unfair criticism, but I think the more time goes on, you can see that it wasn't him, it was the talent. Like he didn't have his, like, I'm not saying he's perfect, right? But I think a lot of people thought it was all him. But I think the more time passes, it's like, well, what did he really have to work with?
Yes.
You're not a Tata believer, are you?
I'm definitely not a Tata believer. I do agree he does get, criticism that shouldn't go his way. If I had to do like percentage, I think, I'll be fair. I think it's 50-50. But because I'm a little bit of a Tata hater, maybe 55-45. But
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, he makes those decisions too. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to go down the laundry list, but like he took an unfit Raul Jimenez. At the end of the day, he chose Rogelio Funes Mori over Santi Jimenez, who was already playing in Feyenoord, and he's picked Funes Mori over Santi Jimenez, and he kind of picked his favorites. You know what I mean? Similar to what, like, I hear this about Greg too, right? He has his favorites too, no matter if they play bad or good. He played them. At the end of the day, he picked playing, I don't know, Hector Herrera instead of someone who was a bit in form. I mean, the Argentina game, think about it. We were playing. We wanted to draw against Argentina. We played a back line of 5. We pretty much try to get them on the counter, and he benches Edson Alvarez, who was probably our best defender, our best CDM, just best defender in general, and he's sitting on the bench and he didn't see any minutes. So,
yeah. Well, from what I've seen, it looked like a lot of Mexican national team fans were saying it was like 90% his fault and that he's the reason for the downfall of Mexican soccer. It's all him. And
it's not all him.
Yeah, that's what I think kind of bothered me a little bit, because I think he was just getting all the blame instead of just partial blame. I mean, it is the weakest pool. And even if he could have done better, his options were limited. And like, I would love to have seen what Tata Martino could have done if he coached the golden generation where he had a little bit more talent. I mean, some fans were saying he's the worst coach in their history. Like, I don't believe that at all. Like, I don't think he's the worst coach in Mexican national team history.
I mean, yeah, that's a bit harsh. I mean, you would have to look back at the end of the day too, where fans don't want to give him credit. Like, he did well in the qualifiers. At the end of the day, didn't we do better than the U.S. Technically?
Yeah.
So there's that. So
yeah, I'm looking at his win percentage. He actually, okay, so he coached 60. I know the trophies don't necessarily represent this, but this is interesting. Tata Martino. Okay, of the last, so the last coach to have a better record or win percentage than Tata Martino that coached the Mexican national team was Jose Manuel de la Torre. He was the last manager to have a better win percentage. Tata actually had a better win percentage than Juan Carlos Osorio, and he had a better win percentage than Miguel Herrera, which is crazy to think about. I mean, that's that's if you just go by what the fans say, that's not what it would seem like it was.
I think context is everything, right? So like,
Yeah.
how many of those wins are from like the Mex tour, where we come here and play our famous moleros, right?
Yeah.
So, and then how many of those are actually against like a top opposition too? You know what I mean? So, like I said, context and everything. I mean, like I said, he definitely wasn't the main source, or it was all his fault. But you're right. At the end of the day, he did have a weak pool to play with. At the end of the day,
Yeah.
but there's definitely he made some mistakes without a doubt. But like I said, it doesn't help where like if the ship is kind of already sinking, and you've never really tried to repair it or set him up for success.
Yeah, he's trying to bail out the water at the bottom of the ship with a bucket, and there's 5 new holes, and at a certain point, he's like, "Yeah, I got to get off this ship." Oh, what a pass!
Oh,
Duck
yes.
McGuire. Oh, this has been a very lackluster game, right? It just feels like they're just kind of like.
I think that's where we're
sloppy.
seeing the schedule impact them, right? Especially Cruz
Yeah.
Azul. It's not as fluid as I usually see them.
The
Like
possession
we look way better in
changing.
the Philly and Charlotte game.
Yeah, exactly. The possession's changing constantly. Nobody's actually finishing any chance. There's been a couple of chances, but it's like you see the fatigue, and they're kind of just like not moping, but they're just kind of like slacking around, and you can just kind of see both sides are gassed, um, and I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say that the knockout round goes to PKs. I want to say.
I think
I don't.
so.
Let me see. Knockout round draw penalties.
That would make. Yeah. I hope so.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because I don't know if these two teams can handle another 30 minutes. Let's see. I mean, I think it would have to go straight to PKs. Let's see. Looking at the format, let's see what we got here. Group stage, knockout. Because we haven't had a situation yet where a team has played in the knockout round and it's been a draw. I don't think yet. I think every game's been pretty lopsided. I'm not seeing anything about it yet. Is there extra? I'm like so quick.
I don't think so, but I'd be very surprised if there's extra time.
Okay, let's see. Okay, so it's saying that obviously there's no extra time in the group stage, which we knew that already. Okay, yeah, so knockout stage matches will also go straight to penalties after 9 minutes. Okay, well, that's good, because I don't think these guys can handle 30 minutes extra game. I mean, you used to see them in their hydration break. They look like they were gassed.
Also playing in Florida, right? The humidity must be a killer.
Oh, yeah, exactly, especially in August. I mean, but in all honesty, Oscar, if they lose tonight, are you going to be heartbroken if Cruz Azul loses?
No, to be honest, no. Because at the end of the day, 2-1, we have already won this competition. Not to brag, but we won the first edition of this. And then second of all, like I said, this is more like a cash grab type of tournament. It's not official, but at the end of the day, too, as like any team, you want to win whatever's at stake. But
yeah.
I'd rather if we lose this and that means we win the league title, I'd rather that. I don't mind that. I prefer that.
Well, also the only thing I could say in your favor is I don't know how confident you are in the in Cruz Azul's chances of making the Champions League this year. But if they do win this or finish top 3, they get an automatic bid to the CONCACAF Champions Cup. So that's nice.
Actually, does anyone who win this gets to go to the Club World Cup?
Yes, the winner of this gets to go to the Club World Cup as well.
Then maybe I do care a little bit because I want to be in that.
Yeah, so I mean, there is a little bit at stake here, right? You get to go to the Champions League and you get to go to the Club World Cup.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. I'm 50-50. I'll be happy if we
get knocked out so you get that rest, right? So that way you'll be well, I remember them saying last year that when Monterrey went, because they were like the one team who really tried to win this and go for it, that when they got back to Liga MX, they didn't do bad, but their team was just so, like, they were just exhausted the rest of the season. They were gassed and mentally exhausted, and I mean, this is honestly like a month of hell for these Liga MX teams.
Yeah, it really is.
Living out of a suitcase from city to city. Now Cruz Azul, I'm assuming you probably maybe didn't watch it, but you kept up with the group stage games. Where were they at? Were they played in Orlando as well, or were they played somewhere
No,
else?
they played in Charlotte and then they played in Philly.
Okay, Charlotte. So they played in Charlotte and Philly. Did you consider going to that Philly game? How far is Philly from Boston?
No, I didn't. I wouldn't have tried to make that just because, like, I don't know. I wasn't trying to spend X amount of money to like include like the trip, the tickets, hotel. At least for me, it wasn't worth it. If it was like a CONCACAF, maybe I would have probably done it. But because this is Leagues Cup at the end of the day, I said no. I have other grown-up things I need to probably pay attention to.
Would you have went if it was in Gillette Stadium?
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
I figured you
I probably would
would.
have took a whole week off just so I can prepare mentally.
Yeah, no, I figured that would probably be like, that would be you're like, yeah, I'm going to this. That's the exception. I'm going for sure. Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what the rest of their schedule looks like. I don't know who I can look and see who they play if they win this match. Which, Liga MX teams struggle in penalties against MLS teams in Leagues Cup. They normally lose. Anytime it goes to penalties, they normally lose. Okay, so let's see.
All I know is we can maybe meet if the Revs do good. I think they could possibly come to Gillette if they go to like the semifinals, but there's so many things that would need to go right for that to happen.
Well, they tied it up. The Revs are actually tied with New York City right now, or actually New York City tied up with the Revs. So Columbus is beating the absolute hell out of Sporting Kansas City 4-0.
Jeez.
Let's see. So Cruz Azul, Orlando City will play the winner of DC United, and I always butcher this name. I get roasted all the time. It's the damn. I hate even pronouncing this name because everybody always roasts me about it.
If you show me a picture, I'll say it for you.
It's like Mazatlan.
Oh, there you go. You got it right.
Mazatlan.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the team. I remember someone in the comment section said I said Mazel Tov or something like that.
All right,
that's pretty funny. But that's who they would play. So they're beating DC United 2-1. So the winner of this match will play the winner of that match.
So, like, say if Mazatlan wins, where's the home game? Where's the game actually?
Question. Let me see real quick. Let me look.
I'm assuming it'd be in the East Coast still, because I don't think. Well, if they want to make the money, they'd probably go to like Texas or Cali, though.
Okay, so they're playing right now at
DC. I'm assuming
they're playing at DC United, so it'd probably be at DC. Honestly, they'll probably play at DC if they win. And then if they win that game, so Philadelphia is beating Montreal right now 1-0. Santos Laguna and Cincinnati are tied 0-0 or 1-1. So if Cruz Azul beats the winner of the DC United game, they'll play the winner of either Philly or the winner of the Cincinnati Santos. So their path, Cruz Azul actually has a pretty favorable path, I think, to the final.
Yeah, I think when I saw the bracket last time, it was like, yeah, I don't really see much on paper, at least, right? But anything could happen. I mean, we're still 0-0 here, and the legs are gone, basically.
Now, this bracket, I'm sure you kept up with how well the Columbus Crew did in CONCACAF Champions Cup this year, right? They did really well. Mm-hmm. So they're going to play Miami in the round of 16, which is that's going to be a tough game for both teams, right? That's going to be.
Will Messi be back then or no?
Probably not. I don't even know if Messi will play at all in this tournament, to be honest with you. He might, but I honestly doubt it. I think they're going to save him for the season because they wanted to play in the playoffs. Yeah. But Columbus will play Miami, and then the winner of that game will play the winner of Tigres versus whoever wins the New England game or New England New York City FC game. So you have Tigres, Miami, and Columbus in this one bracket. I mean, that's a tough bracket. That's a tough.
Yeah, that's true.
And then you guys are just gonna have to cruise by and play either. Well, I mean, Cincinnati's a good team, but Philly or DC or so that I think you guys. I said this. One fan got mad at me for saying this, but I think you guys are in the easiest bracket in the whole tournament.
Maybe. I think you're right.
Yeah, I mean, because LAFC Pumas is like number 2 in the standings right now, right?
In the league?
Yeah, for Liga MX.
I think so. Let me just double check.
I want to say they were at least top 4, if not number 2.
Yeah, they're 2. They're tied with us with points, 10.
Yeah,
or
so
3 teams tied with 10.
So they're in the same group as LAFC. That's a pretty good group. And then you obviously have Toluca, Houston, St. Louis, and Club America. That's a good. If Club America is in your bracket, it's a good bracket. People are saying that bracket's terrible. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, they're champions. It doesn't reflect right now in the league table, but you can't discredit them with 4 games in a congested schedule.
No, so just to update this with everybody, let's just look at the scores real quick. We are 88 minutes into the Orlando City Cruz Azul game. Looks like it's going to go to penalties. So Columbus absolutely dog walked Sporting Kansas City 4-0. Mazatlan beat DC United 2-1. Philadelphia is beating Montreal 1-0. St. Louis, Portland is 0-0, and then Houston, Toluca is 1-1. Now, Toluca, are they? That was another pick people got mad at me. Is Toluca pretty good? Because I had Houston beating Toluca.
Houston beating Toluca?
I had Houston beating Toluca, and then fans were like, "Toluca's good. What are you talking about? Toluca's really good." And I'm like, "Well, damn, somebody's got to lose, right? Everybody can't win."
Yeah, I think they got mad because historic, or at least the last few years, Houston has been just absolute doo-doo. And then Toluca has started decently in the league. I mean, they gave us a fight at our home ground, but that was mostly because they really just parked the bus, try to go on the counter. But I don't know. It's like a 50-50 game in my opinion, because Houston has the confidence right now too. The way they've started this.
I honestly thought Hector Herrera wouldn't be a great signing for them because he's like 33 years old and he kind of fell out of favor at Atletico Madrid, but he actually has been a very good signing for Houston. He's been a very good signing, and he's been a good leader for the team. He always struck me as kind of a quiet guy, not really a rah-rah, like get the team fired up, but I underestimated his leadership qualities. He's been a very good coach or player for Houston, honestly.
I've paid attention maybe like the first few games, and it didn't go well for him. I think they lost like 3 games in a row, 4 games in a row.
Yeah.
But since then, he has picked up, and then I think he got called back to the national team at one point. Obviously, didn't make Copa America or Gold Cup, but yeah, we'll see. I heard he's been doing well, but I haven't kept up with him honestly.
Let's see. David Day, he's a super chat member, or not a super chat, but a member of the channel. He says Griezmann is 33 years old. Yeah, but come on, man. Griezmann isn't the same as Hector Herrera. We're talking about a guy who is a world-class player, and Hector Herrera, who's a very good I don't want to disrespect him, but you know what I'm saying. They're different tiers. Griezmann is like in the A tier, whereas like, Hector Herrera is probably like a C tier player, but I'm talking about on the European stage, not like in Liga MX. He's good for MLS, but he was starting to decline in Europe.
Yeah, fair enough.
And we'll see. Now, I'd be curious to see if now Brandon Vasquez is a little different. So is Cade Cowell, because they're also have Mexican heritage. I wonder if we'll ever see a U.S. men's national team player who isn't of Mexican descent play in Liga MX. We saw Landon Donovan obviously play in like 2016 or 2017 for Leon. I wonder if we'll ever see something like that again.
What was the last player besides Landon? Oh, DeMarcus Beasley?
DeMarcus Beasley, yeah. DeMarcus Beasley. That he played for
Josie,
Puebla, right?
I think came. Yeah, he played for Josie. Also played for Puebla. He came.
Yeah, Josie did too. But I wonder if we'll see one in their prime. Kind of like, we know why Chucky and all them are coming, because there's the money, right? But I wonder if that would ever happen, where we would see that. it's a little different because there's not a lot of Americans in Mexico, but there's a lot of Mexicans in America. So different circumstances, but that would be
Yeah,
interesting to see.
I don't see Pulisic coming to Liga
No,
MX.
no. Probably.
But like maybe if you'll get like someone, a Mexican American in their prime, I can see that. But maybe not like a good old like straight, an American kid, quote unquote, to come play in Liga MX. I don't see that happening. I mean, DeMarcus Beasley, he was kind of in his prime. No, never mind. He was old.
He was, I think DeMarcus Beasley was maybe 27, 28 when he was playing in Liga MX. Let's see. He went to Puebla at 29 years old when he went to Puebla. And he played for 3 years there. And then he actually went to the Houston Dynamo afterwards. So, yeah, I mean, that honestly was, when you think about it, that was kind of a random signing, wasn't it? To go to Liga MX instead of returning, because he came from Europe. It's not like he left MLS for Liga MX. He left Germany to go to Liga MX with no ties at all, which is kind of weird.
And you would think too, he would have just as good as offers in. Oh, they almost scored there. Oh my God, Antuna just missed the sitter, kind of based on the angle.
Hey, you're a little ahead of me. Oh God, yeah, he did. Oh man. Wow.
Is that offside though? It seems like it was offside.
By the way, Pedro Gallesi is a very good goalkeeper for Orlando City, the Peruvian. I think his nickname is like, I don't know. That looks.
No, that's a hard. I mean, as a fan who's watching from here, like you just don't have the angle on there.
Yeah.
No, but he actually played Liga MX too, I believe. I'm not mistaken. I think he played for Monterrey and Veracruz, which does not exist anymore.
Okay, yeah, they don't, do they? Let's see. Mexican American 457. Hello, I'm a USL supporter and a Liga MX supporter. Well, who's your USL team? We obviously know your Mexican team, right? Your Liga MX team, but who is your USL team? I think that there has been some crossover, and we'll see. Okay, it looks like so.
Penalties.
We're going to penalties.
You just see the coach bite himself.
Yeah,
so weird.
What the hell? I'm rewinding that. I'm gonna take a picture of that.
Hopefully that's a meme later.
Let's see. What the hell was that?
Now, sidebar here for the Leagues Cup to make it better, since we're going to be stuck with this. Do you think if they just did straight like March Madness style, it'd be better? I don't know how they would do the rankings, but I think maybe that would be better.
I think what they honestly need to do, and I'd love to get your perspective on this, don't have every team in this. Play this in the wintertime when both leagues are off, because you guys take a winter break, right? Between Clausura and Apertura, isn't it?
But it's like 2 weeks, if that.
2 weeks? Well, maybe they could extend it to where you guys are actually before either season starts. I'm sure you'd rather do that than stop your season in August and do this, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe play 8 teams from here, 8 teams from MLS, 8 teams from Brazil, 8 teams from the Argentine League. I want to see something like that. 32 teams, the top 8 teams from both leagues.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm just putting out a tweet real quick.
Oh, you put in that guy biting sand. Who's the coach, by the way, from Orlando?
His name's Oscar Pereira. He's a Colombian international.
Oh, okay. That was funny.
After stop. Yeah, I just posted Leagues Cup has Oscar Pereira down so bad he's biting himself after stoppage time. Wow. That's funny. So Mexican American said San Antonio FC is his favorite team. Well, hey, what about Austin FC? Do you have any interest in supporting I would assume Austin's probably the closest MLS team to you. You don't have any interest in supporting Austin? Lefty says Beasley was dropped by Hanover and needed a club, so he trialed with Puebla and eventually signed. I'm just surprised that there wasn't a MLS team.
I was going to say, there's no way he didn't have an offer from MLS.
Yeah, I mean, now I know Liga MX, especially at that time, 2011, was paying their players more.
That's true.
But he was playing left back. There's no way they were paying him like crazy money, right?
Maybe, who knows?
He says, nope, no Austin, Broccoli FC. I can't argue with that. That it does look like a broccoli head, the badge.
It does.
Lefty says, as a fellow San Antonian, F Austin, LOL. Yeah, I mean, I guess, well, Houston would be the second closest team to you, right? Do you not like Houston either? Or are you just anti-MLS? Only Liga MX?
Also, the geography of Texas is absolutely insane.
It is, right? Yeah, it is. I mean, it's the biggest state other than Alaska. Honestly, wouldn't you think that because of, especially now, California has a high Mexican American population, right? But
Yeah.
Texas has the biggest of any state, if I'm not mistaken. It's literally bordering the Mexico. The biggest part of Mexico borders Texas. You would think there would be more support behind some of these MLS teams in in
Yeah.
Texas, because one of the things you said was that the drive, the convenience, it's not really accessible. But Houston Stadium is in Houston. Austin Stadium is in Austin. Dallas Stadium is in Fresco, so it's not necessarily there. But they have two stadiums that are in downtown of each city. You would think that they would have crazy support.
Yeah. I think it goes down to like what we were talking about earlier. If you're not successful or any really good, I don't think they've ever had like marquee players, right? Houston, FC Dallas, even Austin now. They don't really have. I mean, they're not winning at the end of the day. So, but yeah, how many of those clubs are founders though? Do you know? Or none?
One is Dallas, and I think that Houston was originally San Jose. They were the San Jose Clash, and they moved to Houston, I want to say in 2002 or 2006. So they're technically an original team, but they moved. Kind of like the Lakers. The Lakers were an original NBA team, but they moved to LA instead of Minneapolis. So I mean, it's kind of a great. Do you consider them a founding team still, even though they moved? It's kind of
Technically,
like, Let's see.
Also,
Yeah,
I love that you brought that up because Lakers fans love to be called like Los Angeles Lakers. I always refer them as the Minneapolis Lakers.
I don't know if you can see my background, but I'm actually a Lakers fan. I got a Kobe poster. I got a Kobe poster right here. I got a Kobe poster over there. I'm a huge Lakers fan.
Where are you? Are you from?
Tennessee. Cali? I'm in Tennessee. So I know it's random, but I was a huge Kobe Bryant fan when I was a kid. So I just kind of latched on to the Lakers and been a fan ever since.
Yeah, fair enough.
Let's see. We got a couple other comments. We're about to start penalties too here. We'll see who comes through. David Day, USL should expand into Mexico border cities, Mexicali, Baja, Calexico, California, low-key million population.
I think they're working on that, aren't they? Some type.
I think so as well. Yeah, I think they are. That'd be interesting. Lefty says, I'm originally from Southern Cal, so Galaxy is my team. Okay, well, at least you have a team, right? You should, hopefully you still support them. I mean, I only support the USL clubs, like the only Texas team in USL is the El Paso Locomotive. I'll support them, but MLS, no. Gotcha. I wonder if they could change your mind, though. Maybe there's a player or something that could happen that would get you on board. Everybody's got a price, right?
I'll say this. The Lake. We just blocked that penalty, looks like. Clippers fan, it looks like, though.
Yeah, he is. Yep. Yeah, he's a Clippers fan. Did you already see the PK?
Yep. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so I'm ahead. So you
saved
blocked
it. Okay.
Kevin messed up.
I'm gonna refresh myself. You're watching on Apple, right?
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna refresh this and see if maybe that will help. Oh, maybe if I pause it or something. Watch live. Okay. Let's see what do you see on your screen right now?
Nacho Rivera, our captain, going up to take a pen.
Yep, he's going up right now for me too. Now see Pedro Galese. Kobe's the GOAT, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, as a Celtics fan, man, like even though he stole one of my championships, great player, man. I can't knock him off.
Did he take it yet?
Not yet.
Okay, I'll let. All right, he's taking it right
All
now.
right, you missed it. Wow, that was so bad.
Oh man! All right, 2 miss or 1 save, 1 miss. 1 save, 1 miss.
So bad.
Damn,
That's
this is
our
gonna be
captain
interesting,
too,
right?
Yeah. Now, mentally, what do you, as a player, what do you think is like worse, having someone miss like that, or a keeper saving it? I think the keeper who saved it probably has the edge right now, right? The team has saved it.
Yeah, I do. I think so too, because it means that you were on target and they still stopped you. But then also having a really bad miss can mess with your mental too. Like that sucks. Like that miss you just saw, that would mess with me. That'd be like, oh my God, like obviously he's not gonna take another kick, but Nicolas Ladero is up to take the PK.
Mind games from our keeper.
Let's see. He's usually pretty clutch with his PK, so he's a vet.
Yeah, that was a good
he
one.
makes it. Yep, that's a good one. Okay, Orlando City currently in favor, 1-0 or 1-0 in the PKs. God, this is honestly though, even if Cruz Azul does win this game, it's just kind of like we talked about earlier. These teams look so gassed. They're probably whoever wins is probably gonna lose the next match anyway.
Yeah, just tired. We're gonna see a similar game to what we saw today. Whoever plays.
So let me look that up too, because that's a question I'm curious about. If they do win, when do they play next? Because if they have to play like in 2 or 3 days, they're going to be in trouble. Okay, so so they have to play in 3 days if they win. They have to play so today is Friday. They have to play on Monday if they win.
That's insane.
Yeah, so think about that turnaround. I mean, these guys are going to be gassed. That was a great PK.
Yep.
But I do like some MLS players. Danny Bonga. Honestly, he's my favorite player. It would be cool if an American got him, but I don't think that will ever happen. Interesting.
It looks like he's Americanista, so maybe if like Ochoa went to like Austin FC or something, or probably be a fan.
Yeah, or maybe if I know he lives in Texas, but maybe you can have. Obviously, you don't live in Cruz Azul or close there, but you still support the team. It's your childhood team. I'm sure family is a big part of why you like Azul. Maybe if he, Piojo, he's kind of like a.
He's the coach over there. Yeah.
Maybe if he goes to like San Diego and they got Chucky and then Piojo, maybe he'll be like, yeah, man, I'm going supporting. God, that was kind of like a bad. Why do you think that he just completely missed the direction, or what do you think happened there? On the PK?
It's the what's it called? The stutter penalty. It gets you. I mean, we saw it. I don't know if you saw the Euros, but the amount of like stutter kicks was like absolutely insane. Penalty kicks.
Yeah. Oh, he says, and by the way, I'm the only Club America fan in my household. The rest are Chivas fans. Man, I'm surprised they didn't put you up for adoption or something, right? That's kind of dangerous, isn't it?
Yeah.
Chivas. I mean, could you imagine being like a Barca fan in like a Madrid household?
I mean, I don't want to say it's common, but it happens.
Yeah. That's crazy. All right, 2-1. Cruz Azul up to take the PK. So these fans seem like the fans seem like they're into it. The Cruz Azul fans in Orlando seem like they're actually like,
Oh, good. That was a good one.
You made it? Okay. All right. So 2-2. 2-2 in penalties. Both teams, Orlando City had their first one saved. Cruz Azul missed wide. Me and my brother go at it like he's a Chivas fan, and he always saying how bad my team is. And I'm like, remember who's the daddy of Mexico? Yeah, I mean, you definitely got some bragging rights more recently. When is the last time Chivas won a trophy? Was it the Champions League? And actually, I think Panovich won the league 1 year with Chivas.
No, they lost it. They bottled it
Did they?
in the final. Yeah.
Okay, so then I guess the last trophy they won was with Matias Almeida, the Champions League, right? Who has a good penalty? Duncan McGuire, 3-2. Let's see. Yeah, you're right. Wow. So they haven't won a trophy since 2018.
Sounds about right.
I'm looking at their page right now.
Oh yeah, I just feel like we're gonna lose this. I don't like penalties.
Well, MLS teams have the advantage in penalties in Leagues Cup. They normally always have the advantage and win on penalties, especially since they're playing away. Cruz Azul, they're tired. You know, they're probably thinking in their mind, God, that 3-week break before the season starts back up might be nice. All these other teams will be gassed and we'll be well rested, and they can play friendlies. I think they said something about them playing against like second division Liga MX team, not Liga MX, but second division Mexican teams to stay in form while they're waiting for the is it Clausura or the Apertura that starts the first part of this year?
Apertura.
Apertura.
So we're at
Okay.
Apertura right now.
So they'll probably play a couple friendlies to stay in fit for until that starts back up.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think I'm 50-50 at this point. I really do want to be in the FIFA Club World Cup, but
yeah,
I don't think it's a make or break for me at this point.
Yeah, I just wish we did care more about this. You know how it would be. I think this would be more of a cool tournament if we did have it rotate between countries. Like if this whole thing was played in Mexico this year, I think people would have been way more excited. And then bringing it back to the U.S.
You think?
Yeah, I think so, because if MLS won it and it was all in Mexico, it would legitimize it more, right? They would say you won a tournament on the road, and that's impressive. Like where all the games are played in Mexico. Like I think that would be a good thing for MLS. But even if Mexico wins this, it's not a big deal. It's not like we know something we didn't already know. We know Liga MX is better. We already know that, you know? And honestly, it's kind of sad that they'd win it because they're playing on the road the whole game.
Yeah.
Oh, don't say anything. Don't say anything. Oh, that was a good strike. That was a good PK. Facundo Torres. So Orlando City's up 4-3. This is for the game right here. Cruz Azul up to take the PK. They miss it.
I could just feel we're missing.
Orlando City advances. If they make it, then we go another PK. Who's taking it for Cruz Azul?
Can't see yet.
Number 9.
Sepulveda, I think, our striker, one of our strikers. Now our backup striker because the Greek Freak is in.
Georgios Giacomakis. They took him out, right?
It seems like it, yeah, if he's taken, if he's not up. Yeah,
this game has been so lackluster. I didn't even notice that he got taken out of the game because it's just been such a weird game. You know, like that's something that I just missed. It just slipped by. All right, here we go. Oh, that was easy.
Another stutter step, right? There you go.
Do you think they'll end up banning the stutter step?
I don't know.
4-4 on PKs. A lot of people complain about the stutter step, that it's stupid, like, or that it's messes with the game. It's almost like a cheat code. And like you said, they used it at the Euros, and that's what everybody uses now to get the goalkeeper off balance.
I mean, statistically, it must be like so efficient. That's why they ask their players to do it. If you can do it.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not a fan of. I mean, even me as a player, I was never good at penalties anyway. I can't imagine doing this sort of stuff.
Yeah, I'd fall down, man, and kick the ball like behind me or something, you know, if I try to do the stutter step. All right, here we go. Orlando City 4-4. No misses can happen now. You got everybody has to score, or if both miss, they go another round. Let's see what happens. See if Orlando City can convert. Another stutter step and a save by Cruz Azul. Stutter step. Stutter step hurt him there. Wow.
I don't think the next one's going to be stutter step.
Yeah, you think it's just
the goalie's going to anticipate it?
Yeah, just go right through it, follow through.
Yeah.
Let's see. Now, is this goalkeeper your number 1, or is he at the backup?
Yeah, number 1.
Okay. You just never know with these tournaments. Antuna's taking it. Antuna, if I'm not
I think
mistaken,
he has a stutter step, actually.
He does, but he's not a bad penalty. He's not bad at penalties. He's decent, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he converts them most of the time, but
yeah. All right, here we go. This is for the win. This is for the win. Don't say anything, okay? You're a little ahead of us. Antuna for the win. Cruz Azul. And Cruz Azul advances with the slowest walk-up penalty I've ever seen in my life. Cruz Azul advances to the next round, beating Orlando City at home. Technically a home game for Cruz Azul, but Orlando City, it's still at Orlando City. Cruz Azul wins, and they will play. Let's see who they will play. I think it's just to confirm they were. Okay, so Cruz Azul will play. Where's the okay? Mazatlan. They will play Mazatlan because they beat DC United 2-1. Cruz Azul plays Mazatlan in the round of 16 for in League's Cup. What do you think? How do you feel about that match?
I mean, Mazatlan is not a good team in my opinion, but they've been doing good in League's Cup. It seems like so. On paper, we should just brush them out. But I mean, as we saw this game, you could just see the tired legs here.
I think that goes in your favor, though, that you're playing a Liga MX side instead of an MLS side. I think that actually goes to your benefit because you could even say that they are as fatigued as you and probably ready to go home. So I think that probably goes in your favor, honestly.
You think?
Yeah, I do. I think that I would rather play them than DC United because you would have played DC United at DC United at Audi Field. So I think that this is best case scenario. And I looked at that. Mazatlan is not a very good team in Liga MX. So yeah, I think Cruz Azul is this is in their favor for sure.
We'll see. I'm curious though. They are definitely playing in DC though.
Yes. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that is they will play in DC. They might.
I wouldn't be surprised they moved it to like Texas or LA, to be honest with you, just so they can make more money. Because at the end of the day, I don't think DC. We won't fill DC, but we'll fill like a Texas or LA stadium.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, I actually have to run. I appreciate everybody, stopping in. Oscar, it was nice to meet you. I appreciate you taking your time to watch this Cruz Azul match with me and Danny. Danny actually had to leave a little early. If you guys haven't already, like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that little bell notification so you never miss a video. And until next time. Oh, before I go too, Oscar, where can people follow you at?
Yeah, I'm just basically on X or Twitter, however you want to say it. But you can follow me at it's right here on the screen, _Machina EN.
Okay, yeah. Make sure you go give him a follow. Good guy. Was a pleasure meeting him tonight and talking Cruz Azul and Orlando City and everything in between when it came to Mexican soccer and Liga MX. Until next time, guys, I will see you all soon.
See you guys. Thanks.